KPTS welcomes comments from the public on its broadcast of the County Commission hearings. Viewers are invited to write to County Commission Broadcast, KPTS 320 West 21st Street, Wichita, Kansas 67203.
Good morning and welcome to the December 12th, 2018 Board of County Commissioners meeting. I'm Kate Flavin, Public Information Officer with Sedgwick County. This morning I'd like to share a reminder that first half property taxes are due next week, Thursday, December 20th. Residents can pay in person here at the main courthouse, 525 North Main, Suite 107. You can also pay online at our website, www.sedgwickcounty.org. Once you go to our homepage, you can click on the How Do I function, pay, and then property tax. Residents can also drop off payment at either tag office, either 2525 West Douglas or the new one, 5620 East Kellogg, and the payment will be processed here at the courthouse. This morning, I'd like to invite up Joan Tamity, the Executive Director of COMCARE, to give us a brief update about the pilot program with Wichita Public Schools.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Pleasure to give you an update. I have with me here Chantel Westbrook, who is the Director of Rehab Services and is overseeing the day-to-day operations of this pilot program. I thought, okay, I got it. I figured out the technology. I thought I'd give a quick overview of what the project is all about. This was a legislatively driven program, and it was supported by the legislature during the last session because there are needs in the schools that aren't being met, children who aren't getting access to services, and rather than creating a second mental health system in the schools, it was decided that it would be wise to partner up with people who are already doing that work in the community and do it within the school. And we all know from previous briefings here that youth suicides are on the rise, and just general emotional and social well-being issues are on the rise in the schools and in our community. And quite frankly, the schools counselors, it isn't their role to do the therapeutic work that we do in community mental health centers, so it adds supports in the schools to these children. There were two populations designated for this pilot project. There were kids that have multiple placements and have a hard time time staying in one school district or within one school, or even within the same community because they're in foster care, other state custody, they're children in need of care, or the Department of Children's Family have identified that they need supports. And then the second population are youth that aren't accessing services in the community and are being identified in the schools as likely to benefit from having mental health services delivered to them in their natural setting. So if you recall, there were 6 pilot sites designated across the state, 3 rural, 3 urban. Wichita is one of the urban schools and the largest within the pilot. So the Kansas Department of Health and Environment directed some of their money to this pilot project, different amounts to the different partnerships, Wichita being the largest. That money was intended to offset some of the costs for unreimbursable time for our staff, and then children services delivered to children and families that don't have a payer source. They're uninsured or underinsured. The bulk of the revenue that supports this program is us billing commercial insurance, Medicaid, and other payer sources for the services we deliver in the schools. And just another quick update, the staffing was designated for 22 schools within USD 259. We targeted 34 clinicians, 45 bachelor level case managers, 1 program manager, and then we agreed to support funding for a statewide coordinator who was familiar with the school district and can help us navigate that more easily. The 22 schools we have 6 elementary, 6 middle schools, 5 high schools, and 5 special day schools. Those are listed here, and the target was to have staff in those schools at the beginning of the school year. So the overall goal of the pilot project when it was established, and still to this day is to improve the social emotional wellness of youth referred to the program. And the target number for Sedgwick County was 800 over the year of the pilot project. So here's the progress we've made. We have a program manager who oversees the staff within that pilot. We have 18 therapists. Our goal, remember, was 34. A couple of them cover more than one school because they're connected together, or they don't have the referral base yet to support having a full-time clinician. I know people are thinking, wow, we don't have the staffing up to date. It was never intended to have all these positions in place at the start of the project because we can't sustain staff without reimbursement, so we were growing those numbers as our population and our referrals occurred. So we're in a good spot today. We have 20 case managers with the goal, once we hit our 800 number, of 45. Again, a couple are covering 2 schools, again, because those are low volume areas. Some schools right now are just starting to hit the need for a second clinician or a second case manager, so we're right where we want to be in terms of starting to grow that program beyond the initial hires. So about half of those positions have been filled. It's a little misleading because we have lost a few positions because the schools have enjoyed having those staff on board and have recruited them from us for their school positions. So we've actually hired a lot more than what we have, but they've shifted. So our staffing challenges is making sure we have qualified candidates. This was a short turnaround time to start this program, and if we needed to have all of those staff, all 79 positions on board at the beginning, it would have been nearly impossible in our community because the workforce shortages are real, and particularly in the therapist level where they have to have a master's degree to perform that work. And like I mentioned previously, some of those positions have transferred to school positions because they worked well in those districts and the principals wanted them on the team. Managed care organizations and pay can be a challenge. So our salaries are moderate in terms of the general population. The MCOs pay a lot more. We have a new managed care organization coming in, replacing AmeriGroup, Aetna, who has been recruiting. So that's been a challenge for us too, because staff have chosen to go to work for those managed care organizations. So here's where we get to the piece that's important to you. On our November 15th report, which was the first quarter report to the state, we had 222 students enrolled and participating in services. As of 12/10, which we knew this was going to continue to grow, we now have a total number of 401, either in an enrolled status, in a referred status, getting scheduled for an intake, or requested by a family member or somebody else. So you could see that it's increased quite a bit in just a short period of time, and we're right on target where we wanted to be come the new year. So 77% of those that we've been working with have Medicaid or a funding source of that nature. 55 are uninsured, and you remember the money we get from the Kansas Department of Education is to assist us with these non-reimbursable services and unbillable time that our staff have in terms of meetings and other things that they participate in that aren't direct services. The remaining percent have some form of insurance that may pay for some of their services but not all of their services. Blue Cross Blue Shield being one of those. Blue Cross Blue Shield will pay for therapy services, but they don't cover case management services, so that goes into that uninsured piece if they need that level of service. This has been very, very well received by parents. Many indicate that they like having it in the schools because the kids are there. It's not another appointment after hours. And most of these children in that one group that were not kids in foster care or other probably would not receive services if it weren't for the fact that these providers are located in the school and it's readily accessible. It's also been very well received by the school because it brings extra supports to them that they would not otherwise be able to receive, or their children wouldn't be able to receive, and it allows them to focus their efforts on other issues that they're more inclined to manage. And the students have been really receptive to it, particularly in the special day schools, the elementary schools, and the middle schools. High school's a different challenge. You got youth that don't come regularly to classroom. Attendance has been an issue with getting them fully engaged in services. There's also more stigma and more ridicule for folks seeking mental health services from their peers at that level of education, and then there's been some family resistance to signing the appropriate papers to allow their high school students to actually participate in the service. So we keep pushing, and that number is growing, but it's taking us a lot longer to get that population engaged in the high schools. So there's many, many positive impact stories that Chantel has and can share if you want to hear some of those in general terms, because we won't talk patient specific. But here are some of the outcomes in just the first quarter. School attendance has increased by 58%. None of the kids in the pilot program have dropped out of school, which is really remarkable. Only 13 of these children have had to move out of the district for one reason or another, and the behavior has improved in 71% of the youth participating in the program. So that means those children are staying in the classroom and actually learning, where before they probably would have disrupted and spent time within the principal's office or some other form of suspension, et cetera. So first quarter, pretty remarkable results. I will say they're also tracking for this youth from where they were last year to where they are at this point, and they're anticipating that 64% of these kids will now graduate with their appropriate class. So that's also an important outcome. So we had Cessna as one of the schools within the original pilot program. That referral base was really low. So they have reassigned one of the pilot projects to Colvin as the replacement school. So we're getting in there and starting to learn that culture. I think the biggest thing is we have one school district which is monumental to overcome and learn, but we have 22 unique schools themselves that we have to learn the culture, work with the administration, work with the teachers, work with the liaisons. And I will say our staff and our leadership of this program have done a remarkable job, because the folks that have to do the most adjustment is COMCARE. The schools are just continuing to perform. We're the ones having to adapt and learn to work and do mental health in a different way. So there is a transition procedure in place for children transferring to or from pilot to non-pilot schools, and then there's lots of personal impact stories of why this is important. And I think some of those outcomes say pretty clearly, if children can actually stay in the classroom, they're not they don't get a label associated with them as being problematic children. Their self-esteem improves. They get the supports to talk about issues that are critical to them, such as family dynamics or the fact that they're struggling with anxiety that's overwhelming for them. Just lots and lots of positive impact stories. So there was a request to share how the referral process occurs. In partnership with the staff we got in the schools each identified and hired a behavioral health liaison who works between the school and the behavioral health team and identifies, with the help of leadership at the schools or teachers or others, that these children can benefit from the services. They then approach the family, and if the family is open, they refer to our clinicians to do an intake assessment and make recommendations for services. There's also the ability of a parent to request services, or a probation officer to identify that, or the Department of Children's Families. So there's lots of ways to refer. It's kind of an open door approach to making access available to people in need of these services. And then, like I said, the therapist does the intake, works with the behavioral health liaison to communicate with teachers what the treatment plan is so that everybody's working on the same page. There's also a request to talk about the suburban schools. The suburban schools are not currently part of the pilot. All of us that have one of these programs is going to have to speak to the benefits of it at the legislative sessions this year. The hope is that the legislature will support expansion of this pilot project. I think we've learned a lot. We're doing a lot. We course correct on a weekly, daily basis as we need to make sure this works, but the suburban schools are not currently in that. We did request in our 2019 budget a decision package for an additional program manager and for senior social workers to get into those urban schools more directly because there's growing need in our community and these municipalities as well. Mays, Valley Center, and Hayesville are the schools we've identified that have voiced the greatest need and desire to collaborate in the next year. So that's a quick update. If you have any questions, I'm here to stand for those, as well as Chantel.
Commissioner Howell.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a number of questions. I was wondering, should we take these questions up during the legislative platform discussion or now? I could do it either way.
I think it'd be better during the legislative platform.
Okay, so I have just a couple of questions, but I'll ask those later on. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, Joan. Commissioner Unruh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joan, this program, though, it's focused mainly on emotional needs and not just discipline, or is discipline a big part of what the problem is?
In children, they typically act out their feelings, so if they've identified as having some behavior that's disruptive to their learning or disruptive to the classroom, they could be referred to assess the need for services, and most often there's an identifiable need that we can address through therapy or case management.
Well, this program, I know, is just getting underway, and we're trying to work our way through it and grow it, but can you tell, are we pretty much on a par with the other test sites as far as our progress and getting the program established?
We're kind of like the one under scrutiny because we're the largest, so everybody looks to us to see how we're doing and how we're doing it. We are actually way far ahead in terms of volume of referrals, and our outcomes are higher than the other group as well.
Well, it's really shocking, maybe is the right word, astounding, that the number of individuals in the program jumped 80% in 1 month, from 220 to 400 and some, and that there's that many youngsters that need these services. I mean, that in itself is an astounding number. But
yeah.
I'm glad that we are partnering in order trying to meet the need, and want to commend you and all your staff for starting this pilot program, and it looks like it's being very effective, so congratulations for your work so far.
Thank you. We're really proud of everybody involved in the program.
That's all I have.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions, but I want to thank you for being here today. It's very timely because, as Commissioner Howell mentioned, we are going to discuss this during our legislative agenda today. It is one of the items on our legislative agenda to make sure that we keep the funding going for this project in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and on the agenda this morning, we'll have donations to COMCARE'S Community Crisis Center and for the Suicide Prevention Coalition. Assistant County Manager David Spears will wow us with the 2018 Road and Bridge Show. Commissioners, like you've said, you'll consider the 2019 legislative platform, and we'll have a report from the Board of Bids and Contracts. With that, Chairman, I'll hand the meeting to you.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to welcome everyone here in the audience and those that are joining us on KPTS and online. With that, I'd like to call the meeting to order for Wednesday, October 12th, 2018. Madam Clerk, next item.
Invocation to be led by Father James Scheibe, St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Catholic Church. Please remain standing for the flag salute.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Good and gracious God, as we gather this day, we thank you for all the blessing you have bestowed upon us. We thank you for all who are present here today, and we ask you to abundantly bless these your servants. We ask for your guidance, your direction, and your support as we begin this meeting. Help them to work with one another to engage in meaningful discussion and to nurture the bonds of this community. Help us to be reminded that we are servants for others, but first we are servants for you. Continue to remind us that all we do here today, all that we accomplish is for the pursuit of the truth of your greater glory and for the service of humanity. We ask all of these as we pray the prayer that Christ himself taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father Scheibe, thank you very much for being here today. He's one of the three priests in St. Elizabeth where I attend. But thank you very much. Madam Clerk, next item.
Roll call. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Present.
Commissioner Ranzau.
Present.
Commissioner Howell.
Present.
Commissioner Unruh.
Present.
Chairman Dennis.
Present. Next item, please.
Public agenda.
I don't have anyone signed up to speak on public agenda. If anyone's in the audience who would like to speak, though, now is an opportunity. Seeing no one, next item, please.
Consideration of minutes. Item A, regular meeting minutes of November 14th, 2018.
Thank you. Commissioners, everyone has had an opportunity to review the minutes for November 14th, the special meeting on November 16th, special meeting November 19th, and the special meeting on November 20th. I move we approve all four of those.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Ranzau.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Unruh.
Aye.
Chairman Dennis.
Aye. Next item, please.
New business, item E, acceptance of donations totaling $750 for COMCARE'S Community Crisis Center.
Good morning again, Joan.
Good morning. Joan Tammany with ComCare. I'm here today because we received donations for ComCare's Community Crisis Center from Grace Presbyterian Church in the amount of $750. While the donation doesn't reference this is in honor of a specific individual, we appreciate their donation and will apply it to our suicide prevention education efforts. As always, this is a good opportunity to educate everyone on the fact that suicide and mental illness do not discriminate by age or other demographic, and that mental illness impacts 1 in 4 individuals at some point in his or her life. The number of deaths by suicide locally has and nationally has continued to rise. I'm proud to say that at ComCare we have staff trained to deliver mental health first aid. This particular curriculum offers tools to help start the conversation, to listen compassionately to someone who has thoughts of suicide, and then to give them information about community resources where they can get help. Our Community Crisis Center is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Anyone can either pick up the phone and give us a call or walk in for help, or a loved one or a friend can bring them in. That number is 660-7500. Just a reminder to the public that if anyone's worried about someone, let them know their care, and ask that, and if they're thinking about death. Talking is one of the most promising intervention and helps reduce the amount of suicide intent in others. So I'm here to ask you to acknowledge the donations and to authorize the chairman to sign a letter of appreciation.
Thank you, Joan. We all recognize what a great asset that COMCARE is to our community and the impact that it has on the families and people in our community. And we want to thank those that are donating to help provide support to our COMCARE people. So with that, I move that we take the appropriate action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anyone else want to speak or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranzau?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Unruh?
Aye.
Chairman Dennis?
Aye. Next item, please.
Item F, acceptance of donations totaling $390 for the Suicide Prevention Coalition.
Good morning again. This time we're here to acknowledge donations designated for the Suicide Prevention Coalition. We received several donations totaling $390 to support the coalition's ongoing efforts to educate the community and raise awareness about suicide prevention. Two of these donations were in memory of Suzanne Milan, whose family has allowed us to speak about the fact that she has used ComCare services, and people continue to provide donations in her behalf, this time totaling $235. Suzanne was just 40 years old when she lost her battle with depression. And then one was to honor an individual by the name of Chris, and that donation was in the amount of $155. We know that suicide is an act of hopelessness, and talking with another human being can make all the difference in the world. In addition to mental health first aid that I mentioned previously, we also have staff trained to deliver assist training, and this is actually designed to help people actually not only identify but actually intervene with someone who is voicing suicidal ideation. So anyway, our Community Crisis Center, as noted previously, is available to all residents in our community, and I'm here again to ask that you acknowledge these donations and authorize the chairman to sign letters of appreciation.
Thank you, Joan. I know that our commissioners, all five of us, understand the importance of the Suicide Prevention Coalition. We appreciate the donations that are made to help us in that important work. I move that we take the appropriate action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranzau?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Unruh?
Aye.
Chairman Dennis?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Appreciate it. Next item, please.
Item G, 2018 Road and Bridge Presentation.
Well, here's something we've been waiting all morning for.
All year.
Been waiting 1 year for it. My favorite
Well, I'll tell
day
you
of
that
the,
after I hear your
work-wise, my favorite day of the year. David Spears, Commissioners. I would like to report to you on the projects that were constructed in the year 2018, including roads, bridges, and preventive maintenance. This year we completed 12 miles of chip seal, 1 mile of scrub seal with our county forces. I'll explain scrub seal, what that is, later in the show. In addition to these projects, the 2018 construction program can be summarized as follows. 10 miles of road were treated with hot mix recycling. 7.5 miles of gravel roads were replaced with cement-treated base and asphalt surfacing. That was the commissioner's miles this year. 5.5 total miles of asphalt rejuvenation was performed. 57 total miles of NovaChip was constructed. 1 3/4 total miles of high-density seal was constructed, plus the parking lots at the Sedgwick County Park. 9 miles of Bontech was constructed. 2.6 miles of BM1 overlays was performed. 3 bridges were constructed by contract. 5 bridges were constructed by our crews. All of the projects are in accordance with Sedgwick County's capital improvement program. In total, improvements were made to 105 miles of the 566 miles of paved roads that Sedgwick County is responsible for. That means that 18% of the county's road system was improved in the year 2018. And let me remind you, infrastructure is the mother's milk of economic development. Now we're ready to view the show. So hold your applause until it's over. Okay.
Got him bring his own.
Okay, there's a map of everything we've done this year. And now we'll go over each of these. These are the commissioner's miles that we did this year with where we put a new base down on gravel roads with it's a dry mix that we used instead of a wet, and then we put hot mix asphalt on top of that. 7.5 miles.
Well, we're out here at 69th and Hoover. We're doing the project of paving Hoover from 69th all the way up to 85th Street. This is something the citizens have wanted for, well, quite a long time, and we're happy to get this done for them. What we did is we started off with 10 inches of cement-treated subsoil. That gives it a nice hard base to start off with. And then on top of that, we put on 2 inches of asphalt. Should provide a very nice road that I think the citizens of this area will be very happy with. It's turned out to cost about $160,000 per mile.
I'm David Spears, Assistant County Manager for Public Works, Facilities Maintenance, and Project Services. We do about 100 miles of road paving a year. This is a unique process this year. We're doing about 7.5 miles of this process, which we bid out. Working together with the contractor, we saved money for the taxpayers. We used our trucks to haul the asphalt. Also, our crews prepared the road bed ahead of time, put in new culverts. All in all, we think it's a good economic benefit to the taxpayers of Sedgwick County. Well, a picture's worth 1,000 words. This is that road before it was done, you just saw on the film. It's us doing the preliminary work, our crews. And there's the result. So on Hoover, between 69th and 85th. That's towards the north end. This is Hillside, down between 111th and 119th, Commissioner O'Donnell's district. This was the final link of a paved roadway to get us down to K53, which is also where the casino is, and we have noticed an uptick of traffic on this road since it was paved. This is 37th Street North between 127th and 143rd Street East. This was unique in that we had a citizen that participated and gave the county, I believe, $43,000 for this project. This is Central, Commissioner Dennis's area. This also connected up some other paved roads. So before, all of these were gravel roads and they're now paved. 7.5 miles. And this is 87th Street South between Webb and Greenwich down in Commissioner Howell's district. This one was pretty woolly on each side. You can see the trees. That was quite an undertaking. This is after. 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 And Flint Hills Materials did work like we said in the film. We did hauling of the asphalt, and that saved some money. Turned out to be about $150,000 per mile. Okay, crack, chat, scrub, and fog seals. Show you a little bit of that. We're not showing every single thing that we've done, every single mile. Here's the locations. So 71st Street South between 327th and Viola Road before. This is after. After, same road. Okay, this is the new device that we purchased this year to do a new thing that we're going to we really liked what happened with this, and we're going to do all of our roads next year with what's called a scrub seal. You see these look like regular brooms, and they are, but they're heavy duty, and you see that bottom one folds out. You can do different widths on the road, and there's different angles you can use. And what you do, you'll see here there's one lane that's been done, and we've got a video. Here's a lane that's been done, and on the other side it's been done, and the chat has been put on top of it. But the difference between this and our regular chat seal is that this oil, well, it costs $5,000 more per mile, but it's a savings because it fills every single crack. So we don't have to go out ahead of time with a lot of labor and fill these cracks, because this process does it for you. And the nice thing is there's no thinking involved. It's fail-safe. This is actual speed. You see the oil down? It's like a little wave of oil, and then the brooms make sure it gets in every crack.
You want, Larry?
So there's a result on Seneca between 79th and 87th. There's also a rejuvenator in that oil, and it makes the pavement a little more pliable. A lot of times this pavement is old, and then with the traffic going over, it will help seal the cracks. It'll push them back together. So altogether, on all those things that we did, we spent $570,000 across the county. Okay, this is a BM1 overlay. One location, this is 2 inches thick. It's a surface overlay. And we did that to get down to the ICM plant, which is the new state-of-the-art ethanol plant, is going to be built next year. So we needed to beef up this road coming down from K96 to get there. Then also, I'd report to you today, we have finished the plans for 61st Street, and that will be out for bids in January. And if we have good weather, we can meet the deadline that they imposed on us to get it finished. Now this is before on 167th, and this is after. Here again, that's just to beef up the road for the traffic. There'll be a lot of trucks coming in with corn to go to the ethanol plant. Flint Hills did that. See the price. All right, crack seal, 175H. Did all these places. People think crack seal is not a big deal, but it is, because you seal up the cracks, you keep the water from getting down into the base, and that's with the freeze thaw we have here in Kansas, that's what really gets us. So you keep that sealed up, even the micro cracks, and you can keep a good road good. Now here's some work out at the fire station that we dedicated this year. You can see some befores. It's on 53rd. There's the after. And Pavement Pros did all that this year, about $357,000. Okay, asphalt rejuvenation. Had 3 locations.
Well, we have 600 miles of paved roads, and so if we're on a 6-year program, that means we redo 100 miles of road every year. And this one that you see today is pavement rejuvenation.
This is actually a project that's about one of about 6 or 7 tools in the toolbox we use in Sedgwick County to refurbish our roads.
They heat up the pavement, and they mill off or grind up the top inch, and they recycle that. That goes back down on the road. Also with that, they put an inch of virgin material on top of that.
When they get done, This road's as if it's a brand new road. So although this road's 11 years old, and it cost $3 million a mile to fabricate this road originally, we can preserve this asset indefinitely.
Some taxpayers might think it's a waste of money. They can't see with the naked eye that these roads need something done. But that's what preventive maintenance is all about. There are micro cracks in that pavement that lets water get down into the subbase, and with that, we have freeze and thaw cycle in Kansas, which is really bad, and that's when your potholes start.
Are we wasting money or are we saving money? Well, the answer to that of course, is we're spending some money, but the intent, of course, is to save money over time.
You keep good roads good. The road is an asset. It is not an expendable that you throw away.
Sedgwick County does it right because we got great staff, they have excellent skills, they have good judgment, and we invest in Sedgwick County to make sure these roads are done at the right time with the right process. And with that, this road today is a brand new road.
I thought that was great. Tony did the drone work there. I want to thank him. Also today, I want to thank Mata before I forget. Mata Roma did the PowerPoint. She did all the heavy lifting on this. Okay, so that road we just did, this is a picture of it before, 63rd between Greenwich and 159th. And there's the after. It's like brand new. Now this is same process up on Central between K96 and the county line. Before. There's after. These roads look really good after it's done. Now this over in Garden Plain, Main Street, same process. Before pictures. After. I think Garden Plain's pretty happy about this. Now over there to the upper left you can see the old railroad track. That track went all the way across the street, and we worked with the railroad company to get that taken out. And then Garden Plain put that sign up there. Cutler did that, about little over $1.25 million. Okay, this is hot in place recycling, where you need a long stretch to do. They do 2 inches and put the same 2 inches back. There's no new asphalt put with it. This is up on 21st between 247th and 407th West. Befores. You can see how the old pavement is oxidized. Now here's the result. Another thing on this, we had a lot of calls from bicycle folks who ride their bikes out. This is the one of the places in the county where we have wide shoulders all the way out to the county line, and the bicyclers like it. So we took special care to make sure there wasn't a drop off, because with those folks that ride those kind of bicycles, the bicycle tires are only about that wide, and just any drop at all bothers them. They're very happy how we did this. Bettis Construction did it. This first year we used them. They were the low bid, and they did a good job. High dense seal or high density seal. This is in Cheney, the main street before. There's a golf course on the right, Luber's on the left. This is after, and that's in town. And I think they're also happy with that. This type of this HA5 high density seal is like a seal on steroids. It's one of the best ones you can do. It's next to actually putting an overlay on, but not quite that far. But it's better than just a regular fog seal. Okay, this is out of Sedgwick County Park. Before pictures. There's after. And Andale Construction did that, about $220,000. Bondtech, that is a 1-inch overlay of BM1 put down with a spray paver. You can see before, after pictures. That's 167th between Kellogg and Pawnee. This was 183rd between Kellogg and Maple over there, sort of a connecting link at Goddard. After pictures. Cornell did this for $600,000. NovaChip, this really our bread and butter. That's one of my favorites. This is about a little over 1/2 inch thick, so it doesn't raise your road up too high. You don't have the shoulder drop off very bad. Did 57 miles of this. Won't show all that, all 57 miles. Meridian between 61st and 69th. I know Commissioner Ranzon and I talked about this several times. Meridian between 61st and 69th, that's after. This is 247th West between Kellogg and 53rd. After. '95th Street South between K15 and 159th. This is down in Commissioner Howell's area. After. '45th Street North between Ridge and Tyler. After. 53rd between Meridian and Mays Road. Before. You see how it's oxidized. It's over by K96 and Mays. It's after. After. Oliver between 85th and 101st. Cornell also did this. It's not finished. Going to finish up next spring. They're budgeted for $3.25 million. This is the Hawk signal out at Spirit. This is a before picture. You see where the crosswalk is there, where the red truck is, and that's where the Hawk signal is going. And there you see it. I don't know how we got pictures without traffic being there, but somehow we did. Philip Southern did that for us, about almost 50,000. Bridge projects by contract. Only 3. We have 3 others that were we had trouble getting the right of way on, and so we still got a little catching up to do next year. There's the prices on those, the budgeted and actual. This on 39th Street South between 327th and 343rd. Some MacArthur. Some before pictures. That looks really bad. This after. Haunch Slab Span Bridge. Looks nice looking bridge. L&M Contractors. It's the 95th Street South between 151st and 167th. after. King Construction, $500,000. 295th West between 45th and 53rd North. There's the after. It's one of my favorites. I think that looks really good. Claver, 4 1/4. Bridges by county personnel. We're getting better at this all the time. You know, we're doing these precast and we're doing bigger ones. I think you'll see here. There's 5. We did one that was even almost $140,000. There's a before picture. After. That's a better one there. 87th between Webb and Greenwich. It's about $28,000. This is, remember, this is done with our own forces. 87th between 167th and 183rd West. Befores. This is an after. See, it's a 3-barrel structure. $90,000. That's materials and our labor and the machinery cost. It's on the 87th between 167 and 183rd. Four-barrel. About $140,000. So I'm real proud of our folks. We're just getting better at this all the time. You remember years ago we used to build timber bridges, and we don't do that anymore. We still have a lot of timber bridges out there that we make repairs to. This is on Webb between 61st and 69th before. There's the after. After. 48,000. 117th North between West Street and Meridian. 60,000. Stream maintenance. This has really exploded this year, the things that we've done. This is a spillway over by Lake Afton. It's an after. This is a lagoon for the Boys Ranch. It had to be filled in, and we did that and saved probably $30,000 rather than have a contractor did it. Our stream maintenance guys did it. There's the after. Doesn't that look great? Oaklawn, 47th Street from the Arkansas River to Chestnut. Before. Now look at this. That's what it looks like now. Water can get through there a little better. And we did that with our new equipment and new personnel that we got that you authorized for us this year. We did a lot more projects this year. Okay, here's the new equipment. We got that excavator and that attachment, a grinder. Now the nice thing is you can grind these trees up. Before we just had to knock them down, cut them down, more labor intensive, and then you had to bring a truck in and pick up all the trees. Now you just grind them up. So that has really speeded things up for us this year. We've done more projects than ever before in stream maintenance. Now this is something that we did. Look how bad this looks out of Sedgwick County Park, and there was an item in the CIP for a future year to pay a contractor to do this, but we decided we would take it on. Look at that, how bad that is. That's what it looks like now. Our stream maintenance guys did that. Stream maintenance projects completed in 2018. I think there's 22 of them across the county that we did. We didn't used to be able to do that many at all. But with the 2 extra people and extra equipment, we made up another crew, and so we can do more. And we still have a backlog. Well, there's a backlog right there. I think there's 40 still on the back. We keep doing this, doing more and more, and I don't know. We never seem to get below 40. They keep coming in. All right.
That was dramatic.
Tony did this drone. This out of Sedgwick County Park. The pictures you just saw, this shows it in process. We're not really going that fast. Oh, there's a new work we're doing at the north end. Met with Commissioner Dennis out there. We're going to separate the cars where that high loader is, where the cars will go, and then over that culvert's where the people will go. So we're going to separate that out where now it's all together. So we're doing that work also instead of hiring a contractor. This, you'll see we added a piece of a new path to get away from the parking lots, to get the cars away from I'll show it to you here in a second. Get the cars away from the people. See the parking lot on the left and a new path on the right. That's what we built. And then up real quickly, there was another one up there at the Rock Park. I'm not sure what that's called. I think Rock Park Garden. And that's, again, everything we did. You ought to come down and see our new Christmas tree. I know Commissioner Howell's been down. He's seen it. Pretty tall. We had to get a new one this year. So that's it.
Well, thank you, David. Great show, as always. I ate your candy bar. Just keep me awake during your show. No, it was great stuff. I appreciate it. Yeah, Commissioner Howell, first of all.
Well, I just want to say, well, thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to say you guys do great work. I'm so impressed. I really appreciate your staff and your engineering. Your crews are just tremendous. I've had the opportunity to interface with them numerous times, and I just think they're just the best people. They're very highly skilled. They do great work. I think overall, your estimates were pretty good. I was noticing the numbers were pretty close this year, and I don't know how it ended up at the end of the year. I assume you're probably just a little bit under, but it's usually how you are.
Yes, it's a little under.
A little under, which is good. And anyway, So I wanted to say, number one, thank you for all you do, and I appreciate your staff and all the work you do as well. I wanted to highlight Spirit Hawklight was tremendous. That was a risk of closing down MacArthur Road through the middle of Spirit, and I just think that the traffic there it would have certainly suffered. And so I know that was a very contentious topic, but I do appreciate the fact that it's done. And by the way, it's working very well. We haven't had any problems with traffic backing up, and so I think that was the right thing to do there, and it looks great. And
well, we've been out there a lot working with the timing.
Yeah. Overall, I think it was a very good solution to the problem, and the Spirit definitely does appreciate that. And then I am curious about the Nova chip. You said 57 miles. Are we done with that this year? Are we all caught up?
No.
There's still more to go?
About 80, well, I think what I say, 89% complete, 87. Okay. So we're going to finish it next spring.
Okay.
Yes, no, there's more to do.
All right, that was a pretty big chunk. 57 miles is a lot.
The contractor left us a couple of times, and it kind of messed things up, and especially where we had places ground up. I know I talked to Commissioner Ransall several times on Meridian, but we're going to change it around next year so that can't happen. Well, it can happen, but it's going to be expensive for the contractor if it does. But we've got a new idea of how to do that so that it's not delayed like it was this year.
And I also want to say I especially appreciate the stream maintenance efforts in the southeast part of our county. It was just, we've had the impact, I think districts 2 and 5 have had the greatest impact on flooding in the last couple of years, and so that's where the trying to get water flow away from the county, which means you have to start at the downstream and kind of work upstream, and I think you've done that. And overall, it's just been very well appreciated. It's been appreciated. It's been noticed by the folks that live down there, and I want to say thank you for that focus and priority on that southeast part of the county there. I am curious about the Sedgwick County Park, the bank stabilization there. Is that complete now, or is that still more to be done in terms of, is it still in CIP?
We got it seeded. It's complete right in that area. There may be more to do, and we'll have to talk to Schroff on other ponds there. But where this one was, which was in the CIP, it's almost complete. That part of the stabilization is complete and it's seeded. Where you saw us separating those paths out, that's not complete yet, but it soon will be.
So do you think that'll be in the CIP going forward still?
No.
Okay.
No, I think we saved that money. And my recollection is, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, is over $200,000 that was in the CIP that we won't need that in there.
That's wonderful.
Also,
well, thank you.
I'm sorry. The other thing we're doing, we have received several complaints about, when the farmers market is going up there on the corner. There's 2 entrances, one on 21st and one on Ridge. And what the problem is, and we've had a lot of complaints about it, is that there's cars backed up to turn in both those locations. Well, then you've got your people on bikes and rollerblades and walkers that are coming across there, and cars are trying to turn in. It's kind of a bad situation. So we are building a new path. It's north-south. It's a north-south path just to the east of the extension center. So it'll be east of the parking lot, and that runs north-south and connects to 2 existing east-west paths. And that's going to solve that problem. And we've got the drainage structures but we did not quite get the paving in this year, so that's going to happen next spring too.
Well, again, I just want to say thank you. I'm very impressed as always. I love the road show. That is your favorite day, you say. I love this as well. It's impressive. I would just want to say that commissioners always get road complaints, and one of my first questions is, whose road is it? Is it a township road, or is it a city road or a state road, but whatever. And when they realize it's a county road, usually county roads we don't get complaints on. Right. I think we have some of the best county roads in the state, and it just shows you all that you've done to make it that way. It's taken many, many years to get our roads so wonderful. We don't get complaints on county roads, and so I want to say thank you and appreciate all you do. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. David, great presentation. I received 2 text messages from constituents during the program. The first one says, kudos on great county road maintenance, and the other says, I wish the city's roads were as good as the county roads. So at least, you had some audience there from District 2. So
that's great.
Thank you for that, and great work, and we're looking towards some great projects for sure down in my district in 2019 that wouldn't be possible without your work and dedication. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for those comments.
Thank you. Well, a couple things. First of all, we have more bridges in Sedgwick County than any other county in the entire United States. So I want to make sure that everybody knows that. That's an important fact. The fact that we worked on 18% of the roads is important because we do have 600 miles of roads out there that we've got to take care of, and we need to cycle through that. But a couple things that I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of. First of all, there's some outside projects. Besides everything you're doing, we're involved in a lot of other things that are impacting our citizens here in Sedgwick County. The junction of Kellogg and 235, which Sedgwick County helped support, is just finishing up. It's not finished yet. They've still got to do some landscaping and so forth, but the traffic is moving well on that. But again, that is a major accomplishment here in Sedgwick County, and Sedgwick County was part of that.
$11.6 million worth the county put in.
So another project that we're involved in is the North Junction. And just a couple weeks ago, excuse me, we had the governor came down, Governor Collier, Secretary Carlson was there along with the city, and they announced the first phase of the North Junction, which is also very, very important to us, getting that done. And thanks to a lot of work Public Works did to prepare that. We have applied for, I think it was a build grant, was it called?
Yes, build grant.
Okay. We applied for a build grant trying to get some more money going into the North Junction. And just yesterday we were notified that it went to Hayes and up somewhere around Kansas City got build grants, but we didn't. But it doesn't preclude us from looking at some other build grants, types of grants in the future to help us pay for that area up there. What David didn't mention also in Sedgwick County Park, he did talk about some of the paths and so forth, but the other important thing is that those paths were starting to get kind of old, and in case some places, if you were rollerblading through there or you had a bicycle with small tires, you were going to fall into some cracks or hit some ruts that were caused by some trees nearby, and he went through and worked on all those paths this past year, which I was very pleased with. He did show you Garden Plain and some of the works that they did out there, and that's one area that I got a lot of feedback from the community on taking out that railroad and putting in the new road down through the middle of Garden Plain. And David and I went out there and had a little trip down the road in Garden Plain just so that we could try it out a little bit. So there are a lot of other things that are going on besides what he put in his road and bridge show today that are impacting the citizens here in Sedgwick County. And I just want to let everyone know that Public Works is involved in an awful lot of different things that impact our folks day in and day out. And I appreciate everything that they're doing.
Thank you.
Anyone else have anything? Seeing nothing, I move that we receive and file.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Ranzau.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Unruh.
Aye.
Chairman Dennis.
Aye. Well, thank you, David. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Next item, please.
Item H, Legislative Platform 2019.
Mr. Papoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's almost unfair following a presentation like that, but I'll give it a shot. You have before you today the suggested legislative platform for 2019. Each year, the Board of County Commissioners adopts a platform, and it's with the specific purpose of really advancing issues that we think are important for the county in Topeka. It gives our local legislative delegation guidance on matters that we feel are important to the county. It provides our lobbyists with a framework in which to react quickly in Topeka. Mr. Jason Watkins is here this morning, contract lobbyist for Sedgwick County. I'm sure he will be happy to give some input into the proposed platform as well. And as Commissioner Howell understands, things in Topeka can go very quickly. We need to react very quickly, and we often don't have the luxury of being able to convene a meeting and adopting positions, and it's nice to have something in place that our lobbyists, our department heads, anybody advancing issues or arguing against issues in Topeka can do so in a quick and efficient manner. You have before you and on the screen a suggested platform that has a couple of changes in it that weren't in the it's not in the backup to your materials today. Two of the changes we'll discuss today is one that was we've amended the language that we had suggested earlier involving the so-called dark store theory, which is how appraisers are appraising the box store properties. And the other is an issue that was brought up just very recently by the District Attorney in Sedgwick County, Mark Bennett, on juvenile reform legislation, a position on juvenile reform legislation. How we'll do this today, we'll go through this document. We had a Board of County Commissioner staff meeting on December 4th, as you remember. Unfortunately, the chairman wasn't there to give his input because he had another important meeting out of the county to attend. So I'm sure he'll have some thoughts today. But this was essentially what was voted on and discussed at that staff meeting with the revised language I've added today. I would propose that we go through the issues, some maybe in a group like the first one, and some maybe individually, and then at the end of the discussion, then vote on the platform as a whole, with any possible amendments, of course, that commissioners want to make to this. First items on the legislative platform are the behavioral health initiatives, which were discussed in detail by Assistant County Manager Tim Kaufman, who is here today and can address any of these. And unless you want to take these up individually, maybe bring these up, all 6 items, in whole, and discuss them and open them up for discussion.
Why don't we discuss those as a whole, unless the commissioners have an objection? Okay? Okay. Everyone agrees.
Does anybody have any comments or discussion about these items?
Commissioner Howell.
Thank you. I just had some questions on the presentation that was given earlier today. I wanted to just get a couple of things clarified. So with the school pilot program funding, I have a question regarding that. If I understand correctly, this was actually for students. Originally said students and their families. Are their families receiving services from this program as well?
There are opportunities for families, particularly those families that are identified through the teachers or counseling staff in the school may first identify a student who needs some help, and then if that process would benefit from family involvement as well, our staff are available to provide services to those family members as well.
But the numbers we were given this morning didn't really capture that part of this, and so I assume there's additional services being provided, but we didn't see them this morning.
Correct. The reporting format that we're using for the state focuses primarily on those children that are being served in the schools, again, because it's the school-based service. But we recognize that services for the family are going to be beneficial for that child in their regular natural life and in their educational aspects as well.
Very good. Is there any way you can remind me of the funding of this? Most of this was grant funding, but there was some local funding as well. Was it? I think I about know the numbers, but is there any? Can you help remind me of how much money we received from the state versus how much money we provided locally?
There's no local dollars involved in this particular pilot.
Okay.
There's $1 million that has been identified for the uninsured and underinsured, and then the remainder of the funding for the project, roughly, and another additional $5 million is going to be through fee-for-service payment from Medicaid and other third-party payers.
Well, that kind of answers my next question. So I just did some calculations. She said 77% were receiving Medicaid funding. There was 55 that had other insurance, and then that leaves about 37 out of the 401 that didn't have any insurance at all. So that's what the $1 million was for, was to cover those.
That's correct. Okay. Yeah, that funds the staff that deliver those services.
And then finally, this program really is just getting started because this is the first year, and here we are basically about, not quite halfway through the first year. We have about 400 students receiving services, and about 50% of our staff have been placed at this point. Do we have any idea how big this program is going to get in terms of how many students do we expect, let's say, a couple of years from now, should this continue?
For the first year, we anticipate we'll serve about 800 children, and so we know that that's kind of the target that we're at for this year. I believe that it will be larger than that. I think that once, if the program does get expanded into additional schools, of course, we're going to see more kids. But as kids have success, as teachers see the improvements that children make in their academic life, they're going to be comfortable referring other kids and other families to the program as well. So it would not surprise me at all if we exceed that 800 number by the end of the year.
Very good. And then because this is a county administrated program, we're not just doing 259. We're doing other school districts that happen to be inside Sedgwick County as well.
Right now, the pilot is for 259 only.
Okay.
After the first two, right now the project is funded for 2 years. It's a 2-year funded pilot. If the successes that we're seeing right now are played out and the legislature determines that it's a program worthy of additional funding, the plan would be to have a third-year pilot that would expand to all the other schools, all the other districts within the county. And so we're trying to get a jump on that with those 5 positions that we requested through the budget process. And so we anticipate, as Joan mentioned, working with a number of different suburban districts in advance of that pilot project.
All right. Well, just want to say, generally speaking, I think it's a good program, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this continues to perform. And I think it's good that it's on our platform. So I'll be supportive of the behavioral health initiatives as written. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Just to follow up a little bit, Tim, while you're still there, on question on the decision package that you're talking about for the other school districts. Is that going to come out of our budget then?
Those are what we call grant-funded positions, and so they are dependent on the revenue that we'll be able to collect from third-party payers again. So there is no local funding attached to those 5 positions.
Okay. And I noticed you identified like 4 other school districts to put in that. How did you pick those?
Some of those are based on, primarily they're based on the knowledge that we have of working with, we have staff that work with kids in probably every school in this district at one level or another, but we know that those schools that were identified have a concentration of kids that help support a caseload. As Joan mentioned in her presentation, on these fee-for-service funded positions, we need to make sure that we have an adequate caseload that will support, through the billing process, the cost of that staff person. And so we know that there are concentrations of kids in services already in some of those schools, and so that's how we've identified those initially. And what we see is, as children have success and schools see the value of having our staff available in that particular setting, they'll increase referrals, and we'll see it kind of starts to flywheel a little bit, and we see more and more referrals. And so at some point we're going to need to add positions probably to those suburban schools as well.
Okay. And as we finish this 2-year pilot program, are we putting together some kind of a paper or analysis or something to go back up to the legislatures so that we show that this is a successful program that ought to be expanded?
I'm going to invite Joan to respond to. There's an extensive data collection component to this. I'll let her describe that.
Yeah, each of the partnerships has to make a report on a quarterly basis, and that is all being put together and shared frequently with the sponsoring legislators. And yes, we anticipate we'll have to testify to the success and challenges of that program during the legislative session. So lots of tracking of data and outcomes.
Okay. As you get to the point where that it's going to be looking that it's going beyond a 2-year pilot program, where we're trying to get the state to institute that at least throughout all of Sedgwick County, probably need to get the commissioners involved in it so that we can work with Jason and make sure that they've got our endorsement to keep this going forward.
Yeah, we have indication that it'll be very, very quickly discussed in the legislative session, so it'll be fast and furious, we believe. Lots of supporters, lots of naysayers, so it'll be an interesting debate.
All right. Thank you. For Tim, one other area, especially for Jason Watkins, our lobbyist, the second one down is very high priority for a number of us, and that is support for a regionalized state mental health facility, including Sedgwick County. I'm hoping that we keep that at the forefront. I know it's the second one down, but on the list, I don't want people to think that that's a priority. That is a very high priority as far as we're concerned. And even though that these aren't in any kind of order, support of our Community Crisis Center funding is also critical to keep going. So there's some things on here that I know we've got 6 items. I don't want any of them to get lost saying that any one is more or less important to another, because they are very critical to our community.
Exactly, and that second item that you mentioned is really illustrative of the partnership that we have with the state of Kansas for behavioral health services. So it's a local government, state government partnership that happens, and the 2017 and the 2018 legislature authorized and reauthorized a mental health task force, and one of the key findings that they identified was the need for regional behavioral health hospitals. Right now there are two state hospitals, one in Osawatomie, Kansas, and one in Larned, Kansas. And so for folks that are in Sedgwick County that need that level of service, they're going to be 2 to 3 hours away from their loved ones and their families, and that presents hardships in itself. And so there's a recognition that if you can deliver that level of care, that state hospital level care, more close to home for individuals, they're going to recover more quickly, they're going to reintegrate back into the community more quickly. And so that's why we recognize that as a critical component going forward of the state hospital level service. As you've identified, we may have some possible land available for something like that, and we're eager to partner with the state on some kind of a regional hospital here locally.
Very good. Well, I appreciate it. I think that everything under behavioral health initiatives are critical to us. I just don't want anyone to ever take a look at it and say this is an order. It's all critical. I hate to say that it's all critical, but it is. Okay. Anything else from the commissioners today? Okay, let's go on to, does anyone else have anything for behavioral health that we need to talk about? I think we're going to leave that intact as it is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The platform, besides the behavioral health initiatives, is broken down into what we call key initiatives, which we would consider the more important issues that we will be lobbying for in this legislative session. And then we have secondary initiatives as well. The first key initiative on the platform is to permit counties to publish any statutorily required legal notices on the internet with appropriate measures to ensure archival records are available to the public. This is an issue that's been before the legislature a number of years. In fact, it was when I was lobbying for the county back in the early 2000s. This was an issue that was strongly being proposed by the Kansas Association of Counties and other local governments. There are a lot of good reasons to have this issue on our agenda, and I'll open it up for discussion.
I'll start the discussion on that. Joe Seward is my representative in my district, and I've talked to him a number of times about this issue. For example, just here in Sedgwick County, we recently moved to the lowest bidder was Derby, and I don't have anything whatsoever against Derby, but we publish it online. If you've got the app on your cell phone, you can get all of our legal notices on your cell phone. We're spending, I think, as I recall, somewhere around $50,000 a year to publish it in the Derby Informer. And I'm not certain that that's a wise use of taxpayers' money. I understand there are places outside that are not as urban as Sedgwick County is, that this may be the best way of doing things. All we want is the option. We're not asking to do away with people printing it in the newspaper, and the commission in the future may choose to use that option, but all we're asking is an option to be able to choose whether or not we publish it in a newspaper or we use means that we're already using today to make sure that folks have the information. I heard some comments that people are worried that you can't go back into the archives and reclaim the information if it's not published in a newspaper. Well, I think that Sedgwick County is going to have archives. I don't see any chance that we're not going to keep archives going for Sedgwick County online that people can access in the future. The problem that I see with people using the argument that it's not going to be archived. We were using the Wichita Eagle up until recently. Now we're using the Derby Informer. We might be going out and using Clearwater or some other newspaper in the future, depending on who is the lowest bidder. So how would you find it in an archive if you have to check all the different newspapers that are available in the county? So I'm just asking for an option. And we may or may not use that option, but that's the reason I think that this is important. Any other commissioners have anything that you believe we need to leave this on here? Okay, it looks like we have consensus to leave that on.
Yeah. Yeah, in addition to your last comments, Mr. Chairman, we could easily amend the Records Retention Act that deals with retaining county records to make sure that those records, there was a state law to require counties to retain the records that we would be publishing on the internet. So The next item is to allow counties designated as urban areas the same power as cities to abate nuisance properties and assess the costs to the property owner. This is an item that has also been before the legislature before. I know we brought it up 2001. It can spur emotions on both sides of the issue, but this would allow essentially the Sedgwick County to have the same authority that City of Wichita has, for instance, to deal with nuisances that are occurring on properties in the county. And I open this up for discussion.
Yeah. Any commissioners have any discussion? Commissioner Ranzau.
Yeah, I'm not supportive of this. This has come up before in the past, come up in the legislature, and there's been widespread opposition to this by citizens throughout the state. I think we're asking for a stink fight that we probably don't really need, particularly with all these other priorities that we have. I wouldn't spend time on this. We have a lot of tools in our toolbox. Nothing's perfect, but there's a lot of people out in the counties that are worried about personal property rights, and you'll have a big fight about it. You know, sometimes freedom is a little messy, and we can't expect a perfect solution just by giving our government bureaucrats more power and control. I just don't think this is worth spending bandwidth on when you compare it to some of these other things that we've already talked about and some of the others we'll talk about in the future. So I think...
Thank you. Commissioner Howell.
Well, thank you.
We finished, Commissioner Ranzau. Okay. Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if the intent is to vote on these one by one if we want to deal with them independently, but I agree with the comments of Commissioner Ranzau. I do say that our current powers are not ideal. I don't know the answer, but I think this is probably not the right language I would support. It says that we would allow us the same power as cities. I think it goes a little bit too far. My biggest concern for me as a commissioner is the community of Oaklawn, which is a unincorporated area. It seems like a city because it's neighborhood. It's a neighborhood with very compact housing, and there are a lot of problems there. But we're dealing with those through the court system. We're using county attorneys and the judicial system to address those problems there. So we do have some power there. It's not super aggressive, but we do have some power there. I think the cities are continuing to want to add more power to what they already have. And so again, I think for us to say we want to have the same power as cities is a bit too far. So I won't support this as written. I don't know the right answer. I have some concerns about our inability to address some situations, but I don't think this is the right answer here. So I would like to not support this. And so I think we should make a motion at this point to not include this. I would make a motion not to include this legislative priority in our platform.
Second.
We have a motion and a second discussion. Well, I was hoping that the MABCD would be here today. I think this is their issue, isn't it?
Well, I believe so, Mr. Chairman, but I also have Michael Fessinger here from our office that does a lot of the work in county court and has to deal with these kinds of situations. If you have any specific questions on the direct experience that we've had in trying to deal with this issue, and I might also follow up on what Commissioner Howell said is an option would always be to just amend the language here, take out the words "as cities," just basically giving the county nuisance abatement authority so that if a bill was in front of the legislature that was less than the power that was given to cities, for instance, we could argue in support of that bill. But that's just a comment.
Hey, well, I think there's some need to take a look at nuisance property. I've got one piece of property right now in my district that we've been working on for over a year, and nothing whatsoever has happened there. We've gone to court with it. The court case says that it has to be finished before the end of the year, and nothing's been started. So I don't know. I guess we've got to go back to court again or something to take some kind of action. But right now we have, without going to court, we have some fairly limited ability to do anything. So I'm kind of concerned with just completely taking it off of our agenda, or if we can somehow reword it that would be more palatable, I would rather do something like that, because I think that there is a need. There's a problem out there. This is not unique to this one piece of property that I'm talking about. There are other pieces of property that are causing some problems. So, Commissioner Unruh?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not completely familiar with what powers the city has, or whether it just refers to the ability to clean it up and assess the cost to the property owner. I assume it's limited to that, or is there more powers that this might imply?
I'll turn this over to Mr. Fessinger.
Michael Fessinger, Assistant County Councilor. Cities, through their home rule powers, have the ability to abate nuisance, but that power of abatement is still gated behind due process rights of any defendant that they're attempting to do that to. So a court case in city municipal court would need to be initiated, and a verdict would need to be obtained against that defendant, and then a judge would order abatement of that nuisance. And so understand that any home rule power that the city might have to do that is checked by the due process rights of any defendant.
Okay, so what's contemplated here is it would go through that hearing process.
Correct. We would have to. We would have to do that. Okay.
Thank you. Well, I would support the language as is, or I would support it as it's been suggested by Mr. Papoon. But I think that we need to have this in our legislative agenda. So that's my position.
Thank you, Commissioner Ranza.
Well, there has to be a balance between the government wanting to solve problems and people's property rights and the problems and protecting against abuses of government. There's this idea out there that if we just pass enough laws, we can create this utopia, right? And we apply that to lots of issues, and it's simply not true. We already have complaints now, and I hear complaints about the municipal court and how they deal with all these sorts of things. You'll have more complaints of just a different type of nature. I think we are at a sweet spot. Like I say, no one's ever going to be happy in any situation, but now we're going to tilt it even more so on the side of the government. These cases, although not exclusively, but more often than not, are applied to people who are poor or elderly, and taking them to court again and again and give them more power, and keeps expanding and keeps expanding. At some point, we've got to say, all right, we're not going to have a utopia. And like I say, you're going to open up a stink fight and have some problems there that I don't think is worth the bandwidth when compared to some of these other legislative issues that you want to get through. So I would just, I understand when you have certain complaints that at this point aren't resolved. There's other complaints going on, and you'll get more complaints of another if we go too far in one direction, and that's my concern, is that we're going too far in the other direction.
Thank you. Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just, it's hard to look at the extremes of situations and then try to draft up policy to address the extremes. I think there are some extreme examples, and I can give you some examples. I don't think I need to do that here today, but you know what I'm talking about. There are some extreme examples, and I hate to set policy based on those examples, because the problem is there's a lot of other people out there that are, I think as Commissioner Ranzoff said, that are they are doing their best. They may not have the resources or the money or the energy or whatever it is to really address the problems in a way that other people would appreciate. So we are able to do some things with our current tools in the toolbox. My concern is that I don't know if this belongs on the legislative platform or legislative priorities. This is not the top thing in Sedgwick County. Maybe we should address this, but let's work on the right language and maybe develop a process or procedure that we would like to see us use to address those extreme situations. We can always, if it requires legislation, we can always do some work down the road, but this isn't ready for that right now. We don't really have a process or procedure. We don't know exactly what we're asking for here. The fear is if we pass something that shifts us clear to the other side, that in some places you'll have a very aggressive government that's going to go after people with private property rights out in the county, out in the middle of nowhere. We have some very, very rural areas of Sedgwick County, and I can see a very aggressive government would be very, very difficult on those folks. And so we want to be careful when we move this line in one way or the other, what we're actually asking for. And this hasn't really been well defined yet. I don't know what we're asking for. So in terms of putting this on the platform as a priority, I think we're just not ready for that yet. We need to come up with a better plan, exactly what we're asking for. And we can always add this to our legislative initiatives at some point in the future, but this isn't it. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Commissioner Unruh?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike, do we have any cases or examples where there's been an egregious overreach of this authority by cities? I mean, do we know where elected council people have acted beyond what's reasonable?
I have no example for you of an overreach. There has been arguments in the past about whether or not there has been an overreach. An example of that would be there was a Court of Appeals case from the mid-2000s, actually, in which counties lost the ability to abate nuisance because there was an analysis of whether or not counties had the home rule power to do so. But the particular facts of that case, as I recall, I can't give you specifics, but the county's reach itself, and this wasn't Sedgwick County, by the way, but it was another county in Kansas. That particular county was acting reasonably. The argument was whether or not the county had the power to do so at all. So we see that these things tend to get challenged, not necessarily in egregious situations, but just as an analysis of whether counties have the power to do this at all. So that's a long way of saying that no, I don't have an example for you of an overreach.
All right. Thank you. I just wondered if it had been abused, so thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Ranzo?
I will say there is a citizens group. It's called CARS, Kansas Advocating Reasonable Zoning. They meet once a month here in Wichita at the Spangles down on Broadway and Kellogg. I think the next meeting is December 19th. They're going to have a free meal for Christmas. If my colleagues or anyone else wants to hear some of their stories, feel free to show up, and you'll hear about some of the abuses and issues that go on, not just here locally. There are some people who come from out of town just to attend these meetings, and they'd be happy to share their stories with you.
Thank you. Well, I wish we had a little bit more information on what powers the cities, or whether or not that's something that should be in there or not. But I'm not sure that I think that we're heading towards, as Commissioner Ranzo talked about, a utopia where big government takes care of everything for everybody, because that's not what we're trying to do in this little tiny piece of legislative agenda here. And the other concern I have is that I understand property rights, but where do your rights end and the neighbor's rights begin? When you have a piece of property like I'm talking about out in my district that is surrounded by very nice homes, and yet we have a huge pile of rubble, a huge pile of trash right in the middle of nice homes, where does that property owner's rights to have that there end, and the property around that are now worrying about rats living in this debris and so forth, and when the neighbors have very nice homes right next to it. So we need some controls. I'm not trying to be big government. I'm not trying to, as you put, utopia of big government, but everyone has some kind of rights to enjoy their property, and when someone's next to you affects the rights for you to enjoy your property, I'm concerned about that. So, Commissioner Ranzo, maybe you want to address that.
Well, I understand that. I understand about living close to big mounds of trash and garbage and whatever debris you're talking about with maybe rats. I mean, I live across the river from the dump, and it's huge. And you go down K96 on both sides of the road, and there's a lot of nice houses not too far away from there, and everybody lives just fine. But I understand you're not trying to create a utopia, but what I'm trying to say is there's this idea out there that if we can just pass enough laws, everything will be perfect and there will be no problems. But we don't often realize the counter effect that happens if you create additional problems. So, but I understand where we're at on this issue, so I'm ready to vote.
Okay. Commissioner Unruh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would it be agreeable then to use the language suggested by Mr. Papoon that says allow counties designated as urban areas power to abate nuisance properties and assess a cost to the property owner and leave reference to the city out, and let the legislature argue the issue? But we want to make clear that we'd like to have more authority to deal with this issue that seems to have some relevance to our county.
Is that a substitute motion?
No.
Okay. Very good, then. Do we have any further discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I would like to have it restated, please.
Sure. Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The motion is to just eliminate this from the platform, this entire clause as a priority on our platform. I think we need to work on this separately. So my motion is to just not include this in the platform.
Okay, and you understand that's second? Yeah. Very good. Okay. Do you have any further questions, Commissioner Unruh?
No, there's no, except there's no timetable on the motion, and if this is important, we probably ought to at least have a timetable to reconsider it. That would make the motion more acceptable to me. The way it is, it's vague, and it clearly implies to me that it's going to go off the agenda and it'll go away.
Well, thank you. Actually, I would vote for the motion if we added some more information to it, such as why don't we send it back to MABCD for further clarification, further discussion, so that it doesn't just die. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this has been vetted. We've talked about it. I know I've talked to Mr. Fessinger about it quite a few times. I have some severe issues in my district that people's civil liberties are going to be impacted because they're going to end up going to county jail because they refuse to address their property condition. Isn't that correct, Mr. Fessinger?
That's correct. There are some instances in which a property owner may wish to perform the cleanup, but do not have the means to do so.
So we are in a situation where the citizen will go to jail if we do not have other remedies because the neighbors will not drop the challenge. I think this makes sense. When I was on the Wichita City Council, we had the city options that we're trying to get here at the county. This is not for small property violations. This is for severe property violations. I believe that Chris Labrum and the staff over at MABCD are very competent, great public servants that aren't going to abuse this. And so I think we need to move forward with this and have faith that MABCD will be applying this accordingly. And that's to say that this legislation would have to make it through the legislature, and that's a gamble too. So.
Well, and to also to clarify, were this to make it through the legislature, a nuisance abatement wouldn't immediately commence in Sedgwick County. That would also, our code itself would have to be adjusted to allow that. If no change to our code were to occur, then no nuisance abatement would occur. And also, to your point about the specific instance that you were discussing, that particular citizen may see time inside of a county jail due to the contempt of court powers, not necessarily a sentence from that nuisance from that code enforcement case.
But it all stems from the code enforcement case and his lack of response to the property conditions.
That's correct.
Okay. Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Chairman. I think the obvious answer here is there is a session plan or session calendar, if you want to think of it that way, that there is a date where bills can no longer be introduced by individual members. I think we have some time. So I guess I would like to say let's defer this until the Wednesday before that date on the session plan, so we can take this up and reconsider whether or not we want to have this introduced as a piece of legislation for this current session. I would like to give us a challenge to say send this back to MABCD. Let's develop a policy so it addresses the most egregious, extreme cases, but it doesn't come after people who are doing, I think, reasonable things in the county. You know, people in the county are going to have cars, and they're going to have four-wheelers and bonfires and guns. That's part of what they live there for. And people in cities have HOAs. This is essentially trying to put standards on people who may live in an area where this is not really a problem, but yet we're going to have some tools in the toolbox that may be very egregious to those folks. So again, trying to give us something that we can deal with very, very extreme cases that doesn't cause property right issues for everybody else. That's a challenge. I don't know how we get there, but we need to go back to the table. So we have some time. Rather than putting this on a platform, once we vote on this today, we're going to print this today. We're going to go to print this week. And we're going to start lobbying our legislators, South Central Legislative Delegation. We're going to give these items to our lobbyists to go start working these items. We're not ready for that yet. So we have some time. Let's send this back to MABCD and our attorneys and let them see if they can develop some policy to address the most egregious, extreme cases without impacting everybody else. I don't know how we do that, but that's a challenge. And we can bring it back on a Wednesday before the date whereby the bills can no longer be introduced by individuals. And I think it's around the end of January that happens. And so we have at least a month to do this.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think sending this back is, unnecessary, mainly because we haven't addressed what our personal requirements are going to be. We haven't addressed what we're going to implement. This is just pretty broad language that says it's going to allow counties designated as urban areas. And are there 3 of those? Do we remember? Johnson, I think Greeley, Sedgwick now, but there's only a few, so we don't even know what the language will look like. This would just allow us to draft a code. So I think it's putting the cart before the horse to tell MABCD to draft the language when we don't know if it'll go through. I think we just leave this broad initiative to say that it would allow us to abate nuisance properties and assess the cost of the property owner. We don't need to go any deeper than that until we actually get it through, and then we'll develop a code here at the county. Isn't that the plan?
That would be how we would, that's how we would use this power. It'd have to be pursuant to our own code as well.
Right. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not actually asking that we would draft up the actual bill language. I'm actually asking that we would develop this conceptually. What would our policy look like that we think is a reasonably good policy that we would want to support? It may or may not even require legislation. But if it requires legislation, we have time to address it. But I just think we need to develop conceptually what we're asking for. I don't want to spend a huge amount of time drafting bill language. We have people in the state that can do that. We don't need to draft the actual language. And so that's just to address the previous comments. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Ranza.
I vaguely remember some legislator of the federal government saying we need to pass it before you find out what's in it. I don't think we need to go down that road. I'm willing to go with compromise that the chairman offered to send it back to the MABCD and let them reevaluate it and take a look at it more. But when they take a look at it, they really need to take a look at it from the other side as well. I mean, people live out in the county because they don't want to be treated like the city. And so, anyway, and if someone can't afford to clean up themselves, they're not going to be able to afford to pay the fees that we charge them for it either. Anyway, we've got time. I think what the chairman and Commissioner Howell said, we have time. We could look at this and determine later on. And I think Commissioner Howell says, right, of all the things we got going on, that this is not the biggest deal. But
Commissioner O'Donnell.
I'm just confused why we would draft language that we have no authority or any control of at this time. We're not allowed to do it. We might as well ask to draft language to fix the southern U.S.-Mexico border, because we have no control over that either. Let's just allow this to go through, and then we can draft the language. We don't have the authority to do it at this point. Is that correct, Mr. Fessinger?
Right. Were we to draft? Yes, you're correct.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I have a question from Commissioner Howell's comments. If we wait and send this back to MABCD, what is the date? I don't know if you all know it or if Jason knows it. We can't make a motion and it's kind of open-ended. Just send it back and have it back by Do you have a date that we could put in this motion?
No, Mr. Chairman, because the session planner is what they call it. The session calendar has not been issued by the joint leadership of both chambers. If you did want to go that route, that is a titled day on the calendar, which is, as Commissioner Howell said, the title of that day is the last day for members, individual members, to do bill introductions.
But historically, do you have kind of an estimate of when that day is?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Howell was correct that it's typically towards the very end of January. However, this session is starting on the latest possible day that it can start, which is the 14th, the second Monday of January. So that date is going to actually probably be in early February this year.
So if I'm looking at our calendar for January, we're not going to have a meeting on the 2nd, I don't believe. The 9th is probably not a day that we would want to do anything, because it's the last day that we're going to say goodbye to Commissioner Ranza and Commissioner Unruh. That's the guy. So probably the 16th or 23rd if you were going to put a date in here.
23rd. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to amend my motion. We would send this back for further development, and we would come back and reconsider this on January the 23rd.
I'm fine with that.
You concur? Very good. Commissioner Unruh?
Well, that motion's much more palatable for me, but I think I agree with what I think I understand Commissioner O'Donnell's comments is that this just simply would authorize us the authority and power to deal with this issue, and then it would be up to Metropolitan Area Planning Department and the commission as seated at that time to decide what the specifics would be or whether they would want to apply that new authority. So I am good with going ahead with the language as is, to have the authority to do it, and then we work out in Sedgwick County what we think is best for our citizens. But having a drop-dead date to come back and discuss it again is not objectionable to me.
Okay. I don't see any other comments. I can support sending it back till January 23rd to have MABCD come back to us and give us a little bit more detail on this. So I will be supportive of the motion. You understand the motion?
Yes, but I did not hear who seconded it.
Say that again.
I did not hear who seconded it. Okay, thank you.
Oh, Commissioner Ranza. Okay. Very good. Any other questions? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Ranza.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Unruh.
Aye.
Chairman Dennis.
Aye. Okay. That took forever, so let's try and get through the next one that leaves here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item is an item that is on the Kansas Association of Counties platform as a priority this year. It's an item that's also very important to the urban counties like Wyandotte and Johnson County. And this is to support legislation that basically would provide that vacant properties shall not be used as comparable properties to value occupied properties under appeal. This is otherwise thrown around as called the dark store theory, where we are having properties that are being in use, big box stores that are in use, the Best Buys, the Walmarts, those type of stores that are actively being used as a property, arguing that their property ought to be comparable for purposes of appraisal as vacant properties, or properties that might be not only vacant but 30 years old. And we want to draft language. This may not be exactly the language the Kansas Association of Counties has at this time, but we want to draft language supporting legislation that would oppose that theory that's been brought up by property owners. Trish Parker in our office is unfortunately out of town. She's attending a conference in Chicago involving property appraisal, but we'll try to answer any questions you have on this.
Very good. As I recall, KAC had this in their legislative platform.
Yes, it's one of their few priorities this year, Mr. Chairman.
Good. I don't have any problem with supporting this legislation. Commissioner Ranzo?
Yeah, this is another one that I'm not going to support being on here for a couple of reasons. First of all, I mean, a few weeks ago we were briefed on this, and we were told that the reason we want it on ours is because of a court case we lost. Well, the problem is we lost that court case because we weren't prepared to back up our position adequately. Had we been able to do that, we probably would have won. And there's both sides of this. Should the building be appraised simply because it's a building or because what's going on inside of it? And I still need to do some more research on that. But that being said, I would argue once again that this isn't that big a deal to us. I think a bigger deal, if we want to worry about property tax values, is because we've had this on our agenda in the past, we've dropped off, is the fact that cities can grant property tax abatements through a variety of mechanisms, and we have no say in that. And that hurts our property tax values more than this has. And like I say, we've had that on our agenda in the past so that we could have some say in that. I actually think that would be a better item and better way to go at something that's actually going on right now. I mean, City of Wichita just gave one for Meats Corner that was unnecessary, and that affects property taxes for both the city and the school district. That's just one example. It happens, in a lot of cities and for a lot of reasons. Then we have no say in it. We've complained about it in the past, and it's an ongoing issue. I think that would be a better one to be actually put on here and be more meaningful for us. So that's where I'm at on that.
Thank you. Commissioner Howell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just curious if Mr. Papoon can explain to me what does this mean by the word artificially?
We have taken that language out.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong sheet.
Commissioner, that was one of the problems that Ms. Parker had with the languages. She was afraid that might have unintended consequences, and we were trying to narrow the language as much as we could. And if I may, I might respond to Commissioner Ranzell's comments. I've talked to Trish Parker, and we'll be happy to provide information later. But this issue, according to her, had nothing to do with that lawsuit that we lost. This is a broader issue than that, and wasn't specifically in response to that case.
Well, that's what we were told in our staff meeting. That's why I say that.
Again, I've had conversations with her, and that's why we'll get back with you that information. I understood it to be otherwise, Commissioner.
So for clarification, this current language on the one you handed out this morning, this is what the KAC has proposed?
No, the KAC has proposed the language that's been deleted.
Okay.
This was language that was proposed by the appraiser and the county councilor in Riley County. And at the time, people at the KAC in Riley County thought that language would specifically address it. Again, I'm going by my attorney, Trish Parker, and some of our appraisers, and thinking that language needs to be modified. In effect, this process will work its way through the legislature, and we can come up with the appropriate language. I'm sure the legislators won't allow unintended consequences to happen if they can prevent it. But the main thing is not allowing occupied facilities, active businesses, to be appraised against vacant facilities. That's the purpose of the language.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Ranzo?
I will say this language is better than what was originally proposed, but I'll still make the argument that we've got bigger fish to fry if we're concerned about losing, property tax valuations, and we should go after those instead.
Thank you. Okay. I don't see any other discussion. I'll move that we support the amended language to this item.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranzau?
No.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Unruh?
Aye.
Chairman Dennis?
Aye. All right. Next item, Mr. Papoon.
The next item is the item I mentioned earlier in my presentation that was brought for us by the district attorney, Mr. Mark Bennett. This is, and I drafted this language for him, which he and his staff approved of, and it's to support juvenile reform legislation that increases accountability and offers more local control by the 18th Judicial District for responding to moderate risk / nonviolent offenders. Mr. Howell was in the meeting, Commissioner Howell was in the meeting in which Mr. Bennett presented this issue. and I'm not sure I fully understand it. I invited him to the meeting, but I'm sure he's got many important things on his agenda. But essentially, and Commissioner Howell can jump in, I think it has to do with a large number of juvenile offenders that we have that they don't think the courts have enough flexibility to deal with. Not the most violent juvenile offenders and not the least violent juvenile offenders, or nonviolent at all, but a middle tier of juveniles that are nonviolent in nature but don't seem to want to follow judicial orders. And this, hopefully, they think that there will be legislation this session, and that they think legislation following this platform position would be very beneficial to their operation. And
thank you. Commissioner Howell will be able to give us a little bit more detail on this. I did sit in a meeting with Commissioner Howell, with Judge Smith, with D.A. Bennett, our attorneys yesterday, to talk about this. And our judges don't really have an organization like we do that looks at just specific issues here in Sedgwick County. The DAs look at it across the state. So this is more an issue to large communities. So I'll let Commissioner Howell explain it a little bit more because he's been working this issue longer than I have. Commissioner Howell.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, just to reiterate what's already been stated, we did have a very good meeting. Some of our juvenile correction staff also attended that. Judge Smith, and he came with the blessings and agreement of Judge Walters, I believe, and District Attorney Mark Bennett was also there. Really, the issue is, in my opinion, is that Senate Bill 367, which I think was passed in 2015, if I remember correctly, but it's been fully implemented by now, and the consequences of some of the provisions in that, I think it's well intentioned. I understand the reasons for the juvenile corrections reform that's in there. But maybe it's gone just a little bit too far. It's removed some options for us to deal with some of the situations that develop. Once again, I just think we need a little bit more local control and some more graduated responses to things that might happen. Right now we've got kids that probably should be considered juvenile offender kids that are in the SYNC system that seem to can't transition back into the JO system. We have situations happening that there really isn't a county response unless these kids commit something extremely heinous or violent or extreme, in which case we do have tools in the toolbox at that point. So what I'm actually asking for is for us to reconsider, I guess, the consequences of Senate Bill 367. There's been, I think, 4 or 5 details of what this is actually asking for, and then, or should I say, D.A. Bennett also said he has about 4 more items he'd like to add to that. So we have Judge Smith and Attorney Bennett that are working together to develop, if you will, the specific details of what's being asked for by the county. But we do need to have this on the platform because we need to address this as a county. I want to be more successful in getting our lobbyists and the power of the county behind this initiative. And this is not just for South Central, I should say just for Sedgwick County, but this might be something that Johnson County and maybe other counties would want to participate in as well. So they're expanding the discussion to other parts of the state. But we do need to have this on the platform as a priority so that we can begin the process of adding some options back in there for the judges and for the prosecutor and for our staff to deal with some of the issues that have developed as a consequence of 367. So again, I would make a motion we would support the juvenile. I don't need to read it, but I'd make a motion we just support this initiative that's in our platform.
Second. Any other discussion on this issue? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranzoff?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Unruh?
Aye.
Chairman Dennis?
Aye. All right. That one was easy.
The last item we have under key initiatives, Mr. Chairman, is to support legislation that allows a voter to vote at any polling place within the county if the machines are technologically capable. This would include having locations available to vote centers or other locations where a voter could avoid having to cast a provisional ballot. My understanding is this legislation is supported by our election commissioner, and it's before you for discussion.
Thank you. Actually, this came apparent to me when we were doing vote canvass this year, and we had hundreds of provisional ballots that we were deciding whether or not to count. And those provisional ballots were cast because the people went to the wrong polling location. So they gave them a provisional ballot, which allowed them to vote. The problem is some of the different candidates on that provisional ballot wouldn't be applicable to them because they were at the wrong location. When we had our early voting location across the street set up, you could go in, and it didn't matter what precinct you were in Sedgwick County, you could go to that location and vote. And then we had the early locations that were limited across the county, and you could go to any of those locations and you could still vote. But the way the state law reads right now is that on election day you have to go to your precinct. So if you live in Cheney and you work downtown, you need to make sure that you schedule time to be in your precinct in Cheney. However, we have machines right here locally that would be perfectly capable of allowing them to vote, because our machines are capable of voting in any precinct on any of the machines. So all this does is says no matter where you're at in Sedgwick County, because our machines are capable, and I'm not trying to make this so it is applicable to every county, because every county may not have machines that are as good as the ones that we have, but allow, if a county has a machine that's capable of voting at any polling location on election day, that they're capable, that they can do that. So that's where the idea came from, why that I asked that this be added to our legislative agenda. Commissioner Howell.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I completely agree with your comments. The unfortunate thing about voting provisional is it has to be paper, and that is something that the canvassing board then has to later on decide whether or not they're going to accept it. And I think in every case we accepted those provisional ballots, no problem. We understand that someone went to a different poll site than what they were assigned to on election day, and they were given a paper ballot that in the eyes of the election worker was most closely related to what they should have been given. The problem is there are some races on that ballot that don't apply to where they live. And so maybe they'll vote for a state representative, for example, that they're not really allowed to vote for because that race doesn't apply to them where they live. And so there's some conflict between the ballots that are actually provided on election day and what they should have been provided, because we don't have every ballot style of the entire county available at every poll site. So they're given a, if you will, a substitute ballot. The races that are common, let's say governor in this case, or 4th District Congress, for example, those would be counted, no problem. But there may be some things on that ballot that don't count. So some of the races were not counted, and it is very manual. The election workers have to go through and figure out which races count and which races don't count on those provisional ballots. It's just unfortunate. So this is really a high priority. We need to fix this. In this case, they could go to any poll site. Maybe we could. I can imagine even some software, an app, for example, or maybe a website. They could say the wait times are, whatever poll site is less than where I was assigned to. They could still be assigned to a poll site, but they could, if this was to pass, they could go anywhere and bring up the proper ballot style on an electronic machine. They probably can't vote paper anywhere, but if they want to vote on an electronic machine, they could go anywhere in Sedgwick County and actually vote on their exact ballot style for exactly where they live. And every race would count that they voted for. And to me, this is a very, very important priority. So I absolutely do support this, and I appreciate this being on the platform.
Thank you. I move we accept this item on our legislative agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Ranzau.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Unruh.
Aye.
Chairman Dennis.
Aye. All right, Mr. Papoon, you're getting down towards the end.
Yes, we are. Secondary initiatives that the county has on its proposed platform this year. First one is to support legislation that lessens restrictions on counties entering into design-build contracts for construction. I know there's been some discussion with Commissioner Ranzau on this, and I'm not sure that this takes care of all of his concerns, but I'll let him address those this time.
Commissioner Ranzau.
Well, I had conversations yesterday to include with Mr. Fessinger. We've been talking about this. I think maybe the best,
Justin.
It was Justin, sorry. I've had so many conversations here. I think it might be best to remove this. I think we agree, but then instruct staff to continue to work with commissioners and maybe even the lobbyists, because this is a complicated issue. I think what we really need to do, I think if we put this on there and we send the legislature, trying to find a legislator that would sit down and and draft language and all that, it would be a mess. I think we need to sit down and look and see if we can come up with some legislative agenda or language ourselves that we can then propose, and then our lobbyists could take to a legislator and say, hey, here's what we want to pass, because it's a complicated deal, but I think it would be important going forward to give us an opportunity to clean up some things and do some things when it comes to the buildings. So I guess that would be my motion, is that we take this off right now, but instruct staff to continue to work this issue to come up with, to reach a point that we can then move forward on it.
Hey, to my knowledge, we can do design build. We just have to jump through a lot of hoops right now.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
So if we take it off of our legislative agenda, it still won't preclude us from doing this if we feel that it is something that's in the best interest of the county.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it could take a while to sit down and really get it done. Otherwise, we're just wasting our time.
Okay. Did you want to make a motion?
I did.
Oh, you did. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I made a motion to take this off, but instruct staff to continue to work the issue until we're ready to bring it back and then take it to the legislature.
Second.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranzau?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Unruh?
Aye.
Chairman Dennis?
Aye. All right, Ms. Papoon.
The last two issues have some impact on the federal level. The first is, again, I think an issue that's been raised by Commissioner Ranzau, and it's to lessen the restrictions on employers in the hiring of 14 and 15-year-old workers. This falls primarily under the purview of the Fair Labor Standards Act, federal legislation, even though the state also has wage and hour laws. And so any action that the state would take would be probably more in the nature of, as is listed here, a support resolution to try to get Congress to make some changes that the state might agree with. So stand down to your comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Ranzau.
Yeah, matter of background, this came up when we were considered a grant from the federal government to help with youth unemployment, one of which of the groups they were targeting was 14 and 15-year-olds. And I have kids in that range, and there's problems finding jobs for those kids. I've had a lot of parents, a lot of people complain about it. Very few, because all the rules with respect to hours that they can work, there's few businesses that will accommodate that. And so this is a form of economic development, but besides it helps get kids to work early so they learn a work ethic. I think it's beneficial for society for a lot of reasons, and quite frankly, I think this is an issue that shouldn't be controlled by the federal government to begin with. Ultimately, I think it should be the parents' responsibility to decide where they work and how often. But at the very least, we need to allow some sort of action, or allow the states to take it over, or allow the parents to make the decision or something. But it would need to be done at the federal level. We talked about legislation at the state level, but since it's driven by the feds, if we put this on there, then I'm more than willing to take the initiative or take the lead and pass this on to our federal delegation to see if they can at least put that out there as some of the rules or regulations that maybe can be changed.
Okay. Further discussion?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I just want to just clarify. This is what we're asking for is a resolution, ideally a joint resolution from the House and Senate that would actually ask Congress to address this. We're not asking the state to address this without Congress. We're asking for the Congress itself to take this up as an issue they need to address. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah. Very good.
The last item has to do with abolishing daylight savings time or phasing out daylight savings time. This has been an issue involved in a number of states. I think there's maybe one or two states, Arizona and maybe Hawaii right now, that have not switched to daylight savings time. I know this is an issue that has been brought up by the chairman. I think one of the things you may want to clarify is where you're looking at permanent daylight savings time or standard time, but this is the issue before you now, and this would also, as I understand it, once the state acted, would be subject to Department of Transportation approval, so the state's action would only be the first piece of doing away with daylight savings time. So.
Good. And again, all we're asking for is our legislators to say that they think that this is a good idea for us to press on with. I understand that it does require some action by the Department of Transportation. There are already a couple states that don't change back and forth. This also came up at my Citizens Advisory Board, and they were 100% in favor of this. I think probably the predominant thought is that we go to daylight savings time and just stay there. I know that there's been some discussion about farmers on whether or not that it's going to impact farmers. Having grown up as a farmer, I'm not sure that it has a whole lot of impact because they work when they need to work. And when the sun comes up, a lot of them are already working, and when the sun goes down, a lot of them are still working. So I don't know that that's a big issue to farmers. The other thing that I've heard, and I did a little bit of research on the internet, it looks like that the day that more people have heart attacks is the day that we spring forward and they lose an hour of sleep. So it's something else to consider for the health of our community too. So I believe we ought to just leave this on, and just as we did the previous one. And I don't see any objections.
Well, Mr. Chairman, we may want to vote on the entire platform. I know we voted on individual issues, but I'm not sure there was actual motion or vote for behavioral health initiatives. Maybe there was, and some of these secondary issues. So it may be a good idea to vote to adopt the whole platform as amended and approved during the discussion today.
Okay. Well, we've gone through a lot of these, and I make a motion that we adopt the entire platform as amended during the discussions today.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Commissioner Ranzau.
I'll just say I'll continue to oppose the abatement issue, but I voted on that, so I'll go ahead and support this in general.
Sounds good. Thank you. I see no other comments, so Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Ranzau.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Unruh.
Aye.
Chairman Dennis.
Aye. Next item, please. Thank you, Mike.
I don't have any applause, but
Mr. David, can you run that thing again? There we go. Joe, welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Joe Thomas, Purchasing Director. The meeting we had last Thursday, December 6th, for the Board of Bids and Contracts results in 6 items that we bring to you this morning. Item number 1 is the change order amendment to Starkey Incorporated contract, and this is from the Sedgwick County Developmental Disability Organization. Recommendation is to accept the change order to extend the contract for 6 additional months with Starkey Incorporated. Item number 2 is weed chemicals for noxious weeds, and this recommendation is to accept the low bids for items 1 and 2 from Sims Fertilizer and Chemical, for item 3 from Red River Specialties LLC, and item 4 from Site 1 Landscape Supply, and an established contract pricing for 1 year. Pardon me. Item number 3 is storage media and storage devices for various departments. This recommendation is to accept the overall low bids from CDW Government LLC, and this is for the USB 3.0 flash drives, which is represented by items 9 through 14, and the CD DVDs, items 21 and 24. And then the overall low bids from Adorama Incorporated for SD cards, which are items 15 through 20, and CD DVDs, items 22 and 23. And that will be at the rates listed for 1 year with 2 one-year options to renew. Item number 4 is Community Capacity Development Technology Solution for Staff Shortages, and this is also the Sedgwick County Developmental Disability Organization. This recommendation is to fund the proposal from Community Living Opportunities Incorporated, and this amount is $122,690, and also Disability Cocoon LLC for $119,925 for a total amount of $242,615. Item number 5 is custodial services, and this is for Sedgwick County Extension Office Facilities Management. This recommendation is to accept the proposal from Service Systems Incorporated and establish contract pricing at the rates listed for 1 year with 3 one-year options to renew. And item number 6 is cost allocation plans, the indirect rate proposal, the jail steady plan, and fully loaded hourly personnel rates report. and this is for the divisions of Finance, of Health, and COMCARE. And this recommendation is to accept the proposal from MGT of America Consulting, LLC, and execute a 3-year contract with 2 one-year options to renew, and this total cost is $104,600. I'll be happy to try to answer any questions you may have, and I recommend approval of the items.
Thank you. Commissioner Howell?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am curious about item number 3, items number 9 through 14 on there. Are these special in some way that makes them much more expensive than what I can get on the consumer market?
Yes, IT has requested that these items be special encryption. And so this particular storage media and storage devices we discussed with IT, and it was specifically vetted that these particular types be used by all departments.
A lot of okay. So for listeners, these are flash drives between 4 gigabytes all the way up to 128 gigabytes. Maybe some examples. The 4 gigabyte drives are $55 each, I guess. And you go up to, say, the 32 gigabyte drives, $144 for a flash drive. A lot of the flash drives I'm familiar with have encryption software built into them. Is this software something that's unusual, or is this embedded software that comes with a flash drive?
I wish we had someone from IT to go into the technical details. They call it a FIPS 140-2, I believe, or -3, and it was encouraged that this level be used, and this is what they say all departments should use.
Do you know how many of these we purchase over a year total?
No, this is relatively new, and so there was no reports on. We've tried to get this together for quite a while, and various departments order from different places, and they order some encrypted, some not. So we really don't have a total price at this time.
Well, I guess I'll just say, these are very expensive. If you need the encryption, that maybe is a good answer. But I have purchased flash drives over the years, and then a lot of times if you buy a reasonably good flash drive, they do come with encryption software built into them. And if you use that software, again, I don't know if this is somehow different than what I'm familiar with, but you type in a password and it encrypts that, so if someone was to find that thumb drive, they can't get to that data without the password. And anyway, just to give you an example, the 64 gigabyte thumb drive here is over $200. I can find them online for about $15. So I'm a little concerned that these are very, very expensive. I don't understand why we would do that. Maybe I need more explanation. Mr. Chairman, I would like to defer item 3. We can. I don't know if we can take items 9 through 14 out of this or not. If we have to do this as a whole, but item number 3, I think we should give ourselves a week to understand this a little bit deeper. So I'd like to see us not to consider item number 3 on this contract today.
Do you have a motion for the rest of them?
I would make a motion. We would accept the recommendations of the Board of Bids and Contracts, except for item number 3.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranzau?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Unruh?
Aye.
Chairman Dennis?
Aye. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Mr. Manager, next item. I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, next item.
Consent agenda.
Taking away your job here.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Stolz, Interim County Manager. Recommend you approve consent items J through T with the exception of K. Regarding item K, staff would like another week to do further analysis, and we will represent that next week.
Thank you. Commissioner Ranzau?
Mr. Chairman, I move we adopt the consent agenda with exceptions item K and M.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion to go except for K and Mike, Kilo and Mike. I will not be supporting that motion, but
I would expect subsequent votes on that item.
We can approve the motion and then come back to item M if you'd like to.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We can do that. Commissioner Unruh, do you have anything else?
Nope.
All right. So we have a motion for Juliet through Tango and defer Kilo and Mike.
What, not defer, we'll defer Kilo for a week, and we'll have more discussion on for after.
Okay. Defer Kilo and more discussion on Mike. Everybody understand the motion? Okay. Madam Clerk, you understand the motion?
Yes.
Very good. Call the motion, please.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Ranzau.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Unruh.
Aye.
Chairman Dennis.
Aye. Commissioner Ranzau.
I move we adopt the community programs funding agreements with the exception of the one for the Arts Council.
Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Commissioner O'Donnell?
I have a substitute motion.
We have we don't even have a first
Oh,
motion.
yeah, sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I would second the motion for purposes of discussion, and I do have some questions about it. So,
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Now, Commissioner O'Donnell.
Yes, I would like to do a substitute motion that we approve consent item M with all 4 funding agreements.
I will second that motion. And now, I don't see anyone want to, Commissioner Ranzau.
Yeah, I am supportive of all these except for the Art Council. I can't support funding. I think that is unnecessary and politically motivated, so I'll have to vote no on this, even though I support most of them.
Thank you. Well, let me make a statement a little bit. I did some research. Commissioner Ranzau asked me about this yesterday, so I went to the Arts Council and asked them a little bit about what they've been doing to help our community. The Arts Council is part of what makes this a great place to live, because the arts are something that stimulates the mind. First of all, Arts Council has been working very hard to put it in the turtle maze out at Sedgwick County Park. Although we provided the land for that, there was no expense from Sedgwick County, so that's a great addition to Sedgwick County. And a little bit of information that they sent to me. It says, for more than 50 years, the Arts Council has worked to advance and promote arts and culture in Wichita through advocacy, leadership, education, and collaboration. They make it happen. They provided over $50,000 in grants since 2008 to local artists and cultural events. Implement an annual sculpture walk since 2009. Collaborative partner with City Arts, a community arts center that hosts arts events, houses art displays, provides ongoing education classes. In partnership with the City of Wichita, provide leadership on arts funding through Cultural Funding Committee. For 2018, they have awarded 21 organizations, 3 individual artists to operational support that has totaled more than $3.2 million. They stand up for the arts. They advocate for public art funding, and public art program. They inform on public policy. They host candidate forums. They advocate for elected leadership who champion arts and culture. They advocate for local arts organizations and artists. They promote the arts. They celebrate and recognize outstanding local art and artists at the annual art award. They build awareness of local arts through promotion and marketing, support artists, art projects, cultural events to enhance quality of life for the community. They support and promote Final Friday. They promote a vibrant and inclusive and diverse arts community. They connect youth with the arts. They provide $16,000 in youth scholarships to City Arts since 2002. The creation of a Youth Arts Council, Scholastic Art Award partnerships. The other thing that they didn't discuss in here was when I went to NACO last time, there was a breakout session that I went to that talked about art and how that it's helping our disabled veterans that are coming back to help them with PTSD and other things that are bothering our veterans that are coming back into the community, and it has a significant impact on that. And as a result of that, the Arts Council is taking a look and working with some of our veteran provider organizations here in this area to see what that they can do to help with our veterans. So I will, do we have a motion to support item M in its fully?
Yes.
We do have that motion. Okay, so I will support the alternate motion. Commissioner Ranzau.
I just say I fully I understand the impact of arts, and I have no problem with that. Don't dispute anything that he said, but I think it's important to know the facts. I wasn't really going to go into detail, but a few years ago, we cut them out of the budget, and they received $100,000 from the Knight Foundation, at least in part due to that, to compensate them. So that's 7 years worth of funding that we really didn't need to give now from the taxpayers. So the question is, why would we do it when they received funding to replace that? And it's because of political support, and that's not the right way to give. That's not the right reason to give people taxpayer money. So that's why I'll oppose it.
Thank you. Commissioner Howell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a clarification. This was in our August budget, $15,000. Is that correct? This was planned spending? I think I see some heads going yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. I appreciate the information from Commissioner Dennis. And I probably will support this motion to go ahead and fund it right now, but I would just want to say this is, again, a Wichita Arts Council. It doesn't represent necessarily every city in Sedgwick County, but although people across the county do tend to use things in Wichita, so this is centered in Wichita, and maybe that makes sense, but other communities don't get access to this money as far as I know. This is a Wichita Arts Council. The second thing, as I would say, is our budget, we did pass it with this in mind. I think they're expecting this funding at this point. But I would say this is tier three funding. And I know we're not using that phrase any longer, but in my mind, if we have the funds to support it, then that's a decision we make in August when we pass our budget. This is the time for us to go ahead and follow through with what we said we would do. So I will support the motion today. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, we have a substitute motion. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranzau?
No.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Unruh?
Aye.
Chairman Dennis?
Aye. Next item, please.
Legislative issues.
I don't think we have any other ones, do we, Mr. Papoon? No, thanks. Very good. I'm sorry. Madam Clerk, next item.
Other.
Thank you. Does anyone have anything for other today? Seeing nothing, Madam Clerk, next item.
Executive session.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Board of County Commissioners recess into executive sessions for 30 minutes until 12 o'clock noon under the justification of meeting with an attorney on a matter that would be deemed privileged under the attorney-client relationship to discuss the subject of use and dissemination of attorney-client privileged documents, and that the Board of County Commissioners return to this room from executive session no sooner than 12 o'clock noon.
Second, any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranzau?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Unruh?
Aye.
Chairman Dennis?
We are in recess.
Between the thin red line, the thin blue line, and the thin white line lies the thin gold line. This narrative of lines represents those who are rarely seen, but always heard and appreciated. The calm voice in the dark, the heroes behind the scenes, the golden glue that holds it all together. 911 dispatchers.
Sedgwick County 911, what is your emergency?
The 911 dispatcher is essential. When I'm en route to a call, they're continuously giving us updates, so I know what's going on before I get to the call. And then when I arrive at the call, sometimes I'm the only person, so they're my eyes and ears when I can't be.
One thing that drew me in the most is I love helping people, and then I started and realized that I love how much we help people, and the excitement every day is different.
911 dispatchers are extremely important to Sedgwick County Fire Department. They're the first ones on scene. They're the ones that have the first contact with our citizens that are having this emergency. They are the ones who notify what units need to go to a particular emergency. They're the ones who tell us how many units need to go. They are a vital success to the outcome of all the calls that we run. We couldn't do that job without them.
I really wanted to be that person after you go through something really traumatic and you have to call 911 and then you finally get that calm voice and you're like, okay, it's going to be okay.
Hectic, but very rewarding, because you never know what's going to happen on that next phone call, whether you're going to be saving a life.
favorite part about the job is the adrenaline. I love the fast pace when things are getting busy, when we're getting chases or when we're, really helping someone that I know needs the help.
If you're interested in being the first responder, email workfor911@sedgwick.gov or call 660-4977 for more information.
Wichita was built on a floodplain. Early settlers even called the area from hillside to ridge road swampland. In the 1800s, several large floods hit the area, but it wasn't until after the 1944 flood that left more than 5,000 temporarily homeless, the city started a flood control committee. That's where MS Mitch Mitchell, or Big Ditch Mitch, comes into the story. After just 10 days on the job as an office engineer, he was sent out into the field.
They made me wade through about 1.5 feet of water. Now, I'm in my office dress and shoes, and they made me wade through the water to get to the road where the drive was.
And what started out as a 6-week commitment to the project led to a lifelong career with the City-County Flood Control Office.
A lot of planning went into how many of those local flooding systems can be incorporated in that particular project, and the floodway was the only way to do it.
But convincing everyone it was a good idea was another story.
There was a tremendous amount of objection to the acquisition of right-of-way. For that, we don't have any flooding up here, and you're ruining my field, and you're cutting off the highway, and all of those things, that they did not recognize the importance of that diversion.
The design for the Wichita Valley Center floodway was modeled after one Mitchell saw in California.
They were very helpful. They sent us their manuals for construction of the lining, for the maintenance of the lining, how these things should be under drain systems. So they gave us the design work for what you see on the paved canal now. The main project was the diversion of the Little Arkansas River, some water from the Chisholm Creek system, and some water from the Arkansas River through what became known as the Big Ditch. There were people who said, you can't do that. You can't put that Little River water in the Big River. Well, we did.
And that Big Ditch has been his legacy. Tony Giuliano is the art director for Sedgwick County. You've probably seen his work. But when he's not designing for the county, he's got his whistle on the soccer pitch.
He looked at me and he said, "You're skinny, you're young, you can run, you should ref soccer." And 15 years later, I'm still doing it.
Moving up the ranks.
And it's opened up a lot of doors for me. I ref at the local level and the JUCO and the NAI levels all the way up to Division I.
Achieving a collegiate level national badge.
It's exhilarating. I really enjoy that challenge. I mean, at that level, you're reffing the best athletes.
Reffing around 60 matches a year.
You'll find a common phrase in the referee community. It's for the love of the game. Soccer, to a lot of us, is a big part of our lives, whether played it, watch it, or referee it, or all three. And it's given back to the game.
Something that helps ease the stress of his day job.
It just allows me to challenge, or to accept and really take on any challenge. And a stressful environment at work, it kind of is easy after running 6 to 8 miles in a match and getting yelled at from everybody.
Crediting Sedgwick County for allowing him to pursue both of his passions.
It's a neat honor. I've gotten to travel to do some really high-level games, work with referees across the United States. It's just been a very rewarding second career, if you will.
If you've ever needed a snack while visiting the Sedgwick County Courthouse, you've probably seen Wes Brummer. He and his wife Debbie run the Snack Zone, Brummer also furnishes all the vending machines in the county. But when he's not keeping us fed, he spends his time writing historical fiction.
I grew up in a family that liked to tell stories. My folks grew up during the Depression.
That's part of what inspired his book, Dust and Roses.
It's basically about a young woman who takes a big fall, and the rest of the story is her redeeming herself.
Writing hasn't come without challenges. Brummer was born with severe low vision.
Describing color, that was probably one of my weaknesses in the story. I didn't put enough color description.
But that's never stopped him. He sold about 150 copies of Dust and Roses, which can be found in the snack zone or on Amazon. And he's working on his second book.
My character is a German prisoner of war that finds himself in Camp Concordia.
He hopes to have it complete by summer of 2018. Habitat for Humanity provides opportunities for families to achieve affordable home ownership.
The volunteers, we don't have the hands to reach out to recruit the families. We don't have the hands to go and meet with these families and help them along their journey.
One of those volunteers is Sedgwick County employee Greg Gann.
Next thing you know, I'm on 3 committees, and here it is 10 plus years later, and it's just a great fit for me.
Gann serves on the Home Buyers Committee, reviewing applicants and doing on-site home visits.
He is always enthusiastic and excited to introduce families, to tell their story, and to talk about not only the challenges that they face, but how they overcame those challenges.
You realize just how difficult it is for families to find clean, safe, affordable housing in good neighborhoods where they can raise their family without much care. These houses are filled with love. It doesn't matter if you don't know which end of a hammer to use. We'll find something that fits your ability and you can participate.
Having volunteers like Greg who are committed, who are willing to give of their time, their talent, their treasure, we can't ask for anything more. It's truly a blessing.
Wow, every day is a great day. I come to the job sites, we go on home visits, we meet. I can't think of a bad day, not once. It's truly been life-changing for me.
If you're hurt, you want help to come fast. That's where these bikes come in.
We're able to fit into places the ambulance can't.
The Sedgwick County EMS bike team was started in 2009 with the help of grants and community donations. Crew members must try out to be part of the team.
I love coming down here to Riverfest and helping out. I love biking, so it's just kind of combining two of my loves together.
Then they work in 2-person crews. Additional support is provided with this. It's how patients are transported out of the crowd after the bike team provides treatment. It's also proven to be faster and more cost-effective.
Our response times are 1/10 of what they used to be down here, and we're using 75% less personnel to get the job done.
And provides a great opportunity for the public.
Just being able to interact with the community, I think, is pretty awesome. They could have come up and asked us a lot more questions. We're a little bit more accessible than we are in the ambulances usually, so we get to see a lot more of the people and hang out with the kids.
Lake Afton, more than 720 acres of fun, all within a 20-minute drive from Wichita. Join us as we take a look inside the park.
I think the biggest draw for this lake is its proximity to Wichita and the big city. It's close, it's convenient.
There's something for everyone. Boating, swimming, water skiing, fishing, camping, looking at the stars, and much more. Tom Ames has been coming out to the lake for 10 years. The This flying field on the west side of the lake is open to the public for sport and hobby flying.
This is one of the very best places to fly in the whole state, actually. Lots of open space, real nice runway. It's just a great facility for us. We really appreciate being able to come out here.
Maybe you're looking for the catch of the day.
Bread and butter fish for Lake Afton is, of course, the catfish. The largest catfish that I'm aware of that's been caught out of here weighed 86 pounds back in the late 80s.
Or just a little peace and quiet.
Clear night, you can see and hear everything. You see all the lanterns, you can hear people talking. It's just an amazing sight to see.
And the excitement continues.
It's been a popular spot for people to attend and visit as it continues today.
Celebrating 75 years of fun in the sun.
I think this lake is cemented in its time frame. It's going to be here for many, many more years to come.
As we were going through the records, we discovered some very interesting things.
The role of the Register of Deeds office is to file and store all real estate documents.
Basically, it's ownership of land, and it's very important, and it started in the 1800s.
But that wasn't always the case, like this depiction of God, or these instructions to make a wig.
I think some people just wanted to file them here because it was an opportunity to have it filed officially somewhere, and maybe this for them was the most convenient place.
But it's the history that's the most interesting. These are the first plats of land for Wichita.
So this is what the city looked like when it was brand new in 1870.
And the history that made Wichita the air capital of the world. Deeds to the Travel Air Company, started by Beech, Stearman, and Cessna.
So these aircraft companies go back a long way. These all started in the 1920s.
There's even a local connection to former President Obama. His grandparents and other family members lived in Wichita in the 60s.
His grandparents moved from Wichita in the 1960s to go to Hawaii, where they helped his mother raise him.
And then there's the Wild West. This deed is from Billy the Kid's mother, who ran a company washing soldiers' clothes.
She also dabbled in real estate. So there's several deeds where she's granting property and also where she bought her own property.
Billy the Kid also lived with his mother here in Wichita.
These documents are so important and they're so unique that we want to preserve them. This is just the tip of the iceberg. We have more. We have lots more.
Looking for news and information in Sedgwick County? There's an app for that. Download the Sedgwick County app. Inside, you'll have access to our Facebook and Twitter streams. Get notifications from the county. Search for jobs. Look at our website. Watch videos. Leave your ideas or opinions. Get weather and emergency updates. Report storm damage. Build an emergency kit. Download the Sedgwick County app for Android or Apple. You'll find it in the App Store or the Play Store.
Did you ever wonder how first responders in Sedgwick County find homes in the unincorporated areas of the county? Hi, I'm Bill Hinkle with Sedgwick County Fire District 1. Did you know that Sedgwick County Fire District 1 has a program called RAMP? RAMP stands for Rural Address Marking Program. This is a program that is offered free of charge to all citizens living in the unincorporated areas of Sedgwick County. Through this program, you can visit our website, www.sedgwickcounty.org. From there, go to the Fire District page and find the RAMP form and enter your information. Choose from vertical, horizontal, or diagonal sign that we will produce for you free of charge. This will be a green sign with a white reflective numbers which helps first responders locate your property from a distance in the event of an emergency. Once the sign is produced, one of our fire crews will come to your location and install the reflective sign for you. This RAMP program helps first responders quickly locate your property in the event of an emergency, cutting down on possible delays in response times due to your address not being visible from the road. All responders in Sedgwick County benefit from this program. These signs can be seen both day and night and during inclement weather. Help us help you in case of an emergency. Post your address for responders to find. Again, this is a free program offered by Sedgwick County Fire District 1. For more information, visit our website at www.sedgwickcounty.org or call us at 660-3473.
Between the thin red line, the thin blue line, and the thin white line lies the thin gold line. This narrative of lines represents those who are rarely seen, but always heard and appreciated. The calm voice in the dark, the heroes behind the scenes, the golden glue that holds it all together. 911 dispatchers.
Sedgwick County 911, what is your emergency?
The 911 dispatcher is essential. When I'm en route to a call, they're continuously giving us updates, so I know what's going on before I get to the call. And then when I arrive at the call, sometimes I'm the only person, so they're my eyes and ears when I can't be.
One thing that drew me in the most is I love helping people, and then I started and realized that I love how much we help people, and the excitement every day is different.
911 dispatchers are extremely important to Sedgwick County Fire Department. They're the first ones on scene. They're the ones that have the first contact with our citizens that are having this emergency. They are the ones who notify what units need to go to a particular emergency. They're the ones who tell us how many units need to go. They are a vital success to the outcome of all the calls that we run. We couldn't do that job without them.
I really wanted to be that person after you go through something really traumatic and you have to call 911 and then you finally get that calm voice and you're like, okay, it's gonna be okay.
Hectic, but very rewarding, because you never know what's going to happen on that next phone call, whether you're going to be saving a life.
My favorite part about the job is the adrenaline. I love the fast pace when things are getting busy, when we're getting chases, or when we're, really helping someone that I know needs the help.
If you're interested in being the first responder, email workfor911@sedgwick.gov or call 660-4977 for more information.
Wichita was built on a floodplain. Early settlers even called the area from hillside to ridge road swampland. In the 1800s, several large floods hit the area. But it wasn't until after the 1944 flood that left more than 5,000 temporarily homeless, the city started a flood control committee. That's where MS Mitch Mitchell, or Big Ditch Mitch, comes into the story. After just 10 days on the job as an office engineer, he was sent out into the field.
They made me wade through about 1.5 feet of water. Now, I'm in my office dress and shoes, and they made me wade through the water to get to the road where the drive was.
And what started out as a 6-week commitment to the project led to a lifelong career with the City-County Flood Control Office.
A lot of planning went into how many of those local flooding systems can be incorporated in that particular project, and the floodway was the only way to do it.
But convincing everyone it was a good idea was another story.
There was a tremendous amount of objection to the acquisition of right-of-way. For that, we don't have any flooding up here, and you're ruining my field, and you're cutting off the highway, and all of those things, that they did not recognize the importance of that diversion.
The design for the Wichita Valley Center floodway was modeled after one Mitchell saw in California.
They were very helpful. They sent us their manuals for construction of the lining, for the maintenance of the lining, how these things should be under drain systems. So they gave us the design work for what you see on the paved canal now. The main project was the diversion of the Little Arkansas River, some water from the Chisholm Creek system, and some water from the Arkansas River through what became known as the Big Ditch. There were people said, you can't do that. You can't put that little river water in the big river. Well, we did.
And that Big Ditch has been his legacy. Tony Giuliano is the art director for Sedgwick County. You've probably seen his work. But when he's not designing for the county, he's got his whistle on the soccer pitch.
He looked at me and he said, "You're skinny, you're young, you can run, you should ref soccer." And 15 years later, I'm still doing it.
Moving up the ranks.
And it's opened up a lot of doors for me. I refed at the local level and the JUCO and the NAI levels all the way up to Division I.
Achieving a collegiate level national badge.
It's exhilarating. I really enjoy that challenge. I mean, at that level, you're reffing the best athletes.
Reffing around 60 matches a year.
You'll find a common phrase in the referee community. It's for the love of the game. Soccer, to a lot of us, is a big part of our lives, whether played it, watch it, or referee it, or all three. And it's given back to the game.
Something that helps ease the stress of his day job.
It just allows me to challenge, or to accept and really take on any challenge. And a stressful environment at work, it kind of is easy after running 6 to 8 miles in a match and getting yelled at from everybody.
Crediting Sedgwick County for allowing him to pursue both of his passions.
It's a neat honor. I've gotten to travel to do some really high-level games, work with referees across the United States. It's just been a very rewarding second career, if you will.
If you've ever needed a snack while visiting the Sedgwick County Courthouse, you've probably seen Wes Brummer. He and his wife Debbie run the snack zone. Brummer also furnishes all the vending machines in the county. But when he's not keeping us fed, he spends his time writing historical fiction.
I grew up in a family that liked to tell stories. My folks grew up during the Depression.
That's part of what inspired his book, Dust and Roses.
It's basically about a young woman who takes a big fall, and the rest of the story is her redeeming herself.
Writing hasn't come without challenges. Brummer was born with severe low vision.
Describing color, that was probably one of my weaknesses in the story. I didn't put enough color description.
But that's never stopped him. He sold about 150 copies of Dust and Roses, which can be found in the snack zone or on Amazon. And he's working on his second book.
My character is a German prisoner of war that finds himself in Camp Concordia.
He hopes to have it complete by summer of 2018. Habitat for Humanity provides opportunities for families to achieve affordable home ownership.
The volunteers, we don't have the hands to reach out to recruit the families. We don't have the hands to go and meet with these families and help them along their journey.
One of those volunteers is Sedgwick County employee Greg Gann.
Next thing you know, I'm on 3 committees, and here it is 10 plus years later, and it's just a great fit for me.
Gann serves on the Home Buyers Committee, reviewing applicants and doing on-site home visits.
He is always enthusiastic and excited to introduce families, to tell their story, and to talk about not only the challenges that they face, but how they overcame those challenges.
You realize just how difficult it is for families to find clean, safe, affordable housing in good neighborhoods where they can raise their family without much care. These houses are filled with love. It doesn't matter if you don't know which end of a hammer to use. We'll find something that fits your ability and you can participate.
Having volunteers like Greg who are committed, who are willing to give of their time, their talent, their treasure, we can't ask for anything more. It's truly a blessing.
Wow, every day is a great day. I come to the job sites, we go on home visits, we meet. I can't think of a bad day, not once. It's truly been life-changing for me.
If you're hurt, you want help to come fast. That's where these bikes come in.
We're able to fit into places the ambulance can't.
The Sedgwick County EMS bike team was started in 2009 with the help of grants and community donations. Crew members must try out to be part of the team.
I love coming down here to Riverfest and helping out. I love biking, so just kind of combining 2 of my loves together.
Then they work in 2-person crews. Additional support is provided with this. It's how patients are transported out of the crowd after the bike team provides treatment. It's also proven to be faster and more cost-effective.
Our response times are 1/10 of what they used to be down here, and we're using 75% less personnel to get the job done.
And provides a great opportunity for the public.
Just being able to interact with the community, I think, is pretty awesome. They could come up and ask us a lot more questions. We're a little bit more accessible than we are in the ambulances usually, so we get to see a lot more of the people and hang out with the kids.
Lake Afton, more than 720 acres of fun, all within a 20-minute drive from Wichita. Join us as we take a look inside the park.
I think the biggest draw for this lake is its proximity to Wichita and the big city. It's close, it's convenient.
There's something for everyone. Boating, swimming, water skiing, fishing, camping, looking at the stars, and much more. Tom Ames has been coming out to the lake for 10 years. This flying field on the west side of the lake is open to the public for sport and hobby flying.
This is one of the very best places to fly in the whole state, actually. Lots of open space, real nice runway. It's just a great facility for us. We really appreciate being able to come out here.
Maybe you're looking for the catch of the day.
Bread and butter fish for Lake Afton is, of course, the catfish. The largest catfish that I'm aware of that's been caught out of here weighed 86 pounds back in the late 80s.
Or just a little peace and quiet.
Clear night, you can see and hear everything. You see all the lanterns, you can hear people talking. It's just an amazing sight to see.
And the excitement continues.
It's been a popular spot for people to attend and visit as it continues today.
Celebrating 75 years of fun in the sun.
I think this lake is cemented in its time frame. It's going to be here for many, many more years to come.
As we were going through the records, we discovered some very interesting things.
The role of the Register of Deeds office is to file and store all real estate documents.
Basically, it's ownership of land, and it's very important, and it started in the 1800s.
But that wasn't always the case, like this depiction of God, or these instructions to make a wig.
I think some people just wanted to file them here because it was an opportunity to have it filed officially somewhere, and maybe this for them was the most convenient place.
But it's the history that's the most interesting. These are the first plats of land for Wichita.
So this is what the city looked like when it was brand new in 1870.
And the history that made Wichita the air capital of the world. Deeds to the Travel Air Company, started by Beech, Stearman, and Cessna.
So these aircraft companies go back a long way. These all started in the 1920s.
There's even a local connection to former President Obama. His grandparents and other family members lived in Wichita in the 60s.
His grandparents moved from Wichita in the 1960s to go to Hawaii, where they helped his mother raise him.
And then there's the Wild West. This deed is from Billy the Kid's mother, who ran a company washing soldiers' clothes.
She also dabbled in real estate. So there's several deeds where she's granting property, and also where she bought her own property.
Yes. Okay.
At this time, I'd like to call the meeting back to order for December the 12th. Mr. Papoon, do we have anything?
No, just that no action was taken in executive session, Mr. Chairman, and with that, I will entertain any motions by the board.
Thank you. And I'd like to declare that no action was taken during executive session. Do we have any motions?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we, as the Board of County Commissioners, waive our attorney-client privileges for the limited purpose of allowing the U.S. Attorney's Office to review a copy of the leadership study provided to the Board of County Commissioners by Stephanie Scheck.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Commissioner Randall.
If we're going to do this, despite attorney recommendation not to, I think I would like to make a substitute motion that we do as indicated, but as well waive the attorney-client privilege with respect to email communication between the county counselor and Commissioner Dave Undrew with respect to whether or not it was possible to fire County Manager Scholes as a result of his cooperation with the FBI investigation. That was an email, I believe, that was sent on around November 1st, 2017, but regardless of the date, I think my intent is clear. If we're going to do it for one, we need to do it for both of these documents, and that's my motion.
Thank you. Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In a spirit of cooperation with the investigators and the prosecutors, and to be transparent and open, I would second the motion.
Commissioner Unruh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think just for the record, we need to say that the U.S. Attorney has a copy of the email, along with I don't know how many other people, so I have no objection to having it disclosed and or publicized that the county counselor sent me an email back in November in response to a question I asked him, and I think it's been pretty well publicized and talked about. And so anyway, I'm not going to oppose the motion. I don't know all the verbosity that was included, but I get the intent of it.
Commissioner Ranzo?
Mike, is my motion?
I think your motion's sufficient.
Sufficient.
To waive the
Okay.
privilege on any documents that the U.S. Attorney's Office may have with respect to former county councilor Eric Gills.
Okay.
Hey, I will support the motion. We've been open and to every single thing. We've been cooperating with the U.S. Attorney and everyone that's been involved every step of the way. At this point, I don't know why we wouldn't continue to cooperate with the U.S. Attorney. I have not seen that any action's been taken whatsoever. I'm not afraid of anything that might come up as a result of any kind of investigation. The check report that we're talking about, we're asking for very limited and controlled circumstance on how that can be released. So I think that we need to continue to be open and transparent with any investigations that's ongoing. Commissioner Ranzo?
Well, there are always good reasons to maintain attorney-client privilege. In general, it's the best to do that. There are other legal ways for them to get this, which would probably be a better way to go if that were possible. But I understand the direction we're going, and as long as we're going to waive attorney-client privilege, we do it for both documents, and that's a much more fair way to do it.
And again, this is under very controlled circumstances in our county counselor's office. It's not something that we're just releasing that they can keep. Any further discussion? Commissioner Howe.
Just to clarify, I do think this is not in the best interest of Sedgwick County, but it is cooperating with those that have asked for access to this. It does add some risk to our personnel that have added to that report. Again, we're going to do our best, I think, to protect them, but there is additional risk to them that their information may somehow get leaked out to other attorneys. By waiving this privilege, we're not necessarily able to limit this to just the U.S. Attorney. Others may be able to gain access to that document. And I don't know that this is necessarily good for Sedgwick County, but and again, in a spirit of cooperation, I guess this is what we're going to do today. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Seeing none, we have a substitute motion. Everybody understand the substitute motion? Madam Clerk, call roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranzau?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Unruh?
Aye.
Chairman Dennis?
Aye. Does anything else need to come before the board today? Seeing nothing, we're adjourned. Thank you all.
Chairman.